Alright, let's go ahead and get started. Definitely behind today. Well, behind, it's nothing new. So, yeah, a little bit behind the eight ball today. That's fine. It's been such a long week. So I am not going to worry about this stream too much. Hopefully it'll be fun. We're going to do some mapping, and I'll probably answer some questions, or we'll take a look at some different things along the way. But not as much, not as planned out. I didn't really have a chance to sit down and make a topic for this week and kind of do the normal rigmarole and kind of think about it and have some talking points to go over. So nothing quite like that today. So it's going to be super easy, going to be super laid back. Could do a little bit of mapping. We'll see how that goes. I've been trying to do a little bit of mapping. It's like the little bit of D&D I've been trying to schedule in, just because it's easy for me to do, and I can do it in sort of little bite-sized chunks. So I don't have to not do anything at all. But yeah, I'm still pulling things together and setting things up a little bit and get stuff set up. So talk amongst yourselves. We'll get there in just a moment. I don't need this open anymore. Setting dialog box. Put that out of the way. And let's, oh, huh. Interesting. I, I know you guys can't see what I'm looking at. And that's fine, you couldn't. I just didn't realize it was on the wrong window. Um, disorienting. There we go. Set up. Yes, that's what I need to do. Let's go there and do that. A bing, a boom, a bing, a boom. There we go. Move this down to. Yep. I'll do it. Do that. Sure that this gets done. Go ahead and do that. Down there. Oh, that's nice. I like that. It pleases me. It pleases me. Alright, let's get the second one open. Then really start putting stuff together. Like I said, I'm a little slow on the draw today. It's not bad, it's just what it is. Head hit the pillow last night and out like a rock. Here. Do that. Let's boom. And that gets us where we need to be. And put this here. Go. There you go. That's the rest of this junk taken care of so we can get on to what we're actually trying to do today. Let's do that. Let's see. Coffee, help me wake up a little bit. Delicious. The old bean water. Over here, and we got this, Let's pull these guys out. Oh, there we go. Okay. There we go. Trying to move around tabs and get stuff set up because we're doing the hex mapping, I gotta set it up a little bit differently than I usually do because we need to see multiple windows at the same time. We have a look at what we're doing. But I'm actually going to send this guy away with you. Just there, and then let's do just one more guy here. A new window so that we can bring up the map. And then we'll have what we need, I think, for the most part. No. Leave that there. Yeah, we leave that there, that's fine. Let's go to, alright, so now we gotta bring up HexDML. let's open our thing. That will be good. Yeah, we can go ahead and start up. Doesn't bode well. And pulled up the dice roller for Google and rolled a 5. Like, that doesn't bode well. Alright, let's do it. I don't think we need anything else. I don't think. I think we're good there. Well, unless I want to show you the other things. I can show you the other things. So that's all. So you guys can get a good look at sort of the map that we're working with in its totality, and you can see it sort of where we are. See if I can get the good picture. I don't know if I have a good picture of the biomes, but that's alright. Yeah, where's the watershed? The watershed's so messy. That's okay. That's not that important. Yeah, we can use that image. Even though I don't love that image, I really need to redo it. And it's got rivers on it, and it's just, they're hand drawn, and it's just, doesn't really fit with the rest of the map. But it's okay. Which is all gridded out in nice, clean lines. But then I have to go in and do all the rivers, which I have done. I have done. And I can't remember which one I did it. Which one I did it. I'd have to go back and find it. And then we're going to have our region maps because we have our... Yeah, we can pull up this one. No, I don't want to look at that. And then, what's our... Oh, I guess I don't have them. That's fine. It'll give you an idea of what we're working with here. Yeah, because I don't want to open up the full map because that thing takes forever to load. That's fine. That's fine. Alright, so we are... I think we're good. I think we're good. Alright. Hi. Welcome to the stream. We're actually going to get started now. Pull stuff over. So let's go ahead and hop over so you guys can look at the same thing I'm looking at. There we go. So I have that done. Alright, perfect. Now, my big fat head may be in the way. We might have to swap this around and just to see how it looks. And so my fat head, just because I think it may work a little bit better if the map's on, well, I guess look at the camera, this side for you guys. So my beautiful face is on the way. Look at that. But I did want to show you the full map. So we are working on this intercontinent. I'm working on stalking the Arctic hexes down at the southern pole, which is all fancy geographic terminology. But I do want to show you the sort of scale we're working at. So these are region-sized hexes, which are about 60 nautical miles blade to blade on a hexagon, and about 70 nautical miles tip to tip on a hexagon. Right, that's why we're using nautical miles. This is your first time here. We're using nautical miles because it situates much more mathematically. It's very much easier to divide and multiply and work with the numbers using nautical miles because those go directly into lines of longitude and latitude, which means making mapping significantly easier. And then using hexes within hexes so we can move the scale down. So our first scale, which is Atlas, which is about 6 degrees of longitude and latitude. Again, blade to blade, 7 degrees, tip to tip. So we do that, and then this is our next level, which is 60 across, so it's about, it creates a grid with a hexagon that has 6 hexagons across it within it, as far as its sort of diameter. Which means, and then you kind of follow that format as you get smaller and smaller, and we go all the way down to, we do have a switch when we get down to the lowest level where we only do 5 across just to make math easier, and to make sure that each hexagon has something that's worthwhile kind of in it, or mostly worthwhile in it, down to the very, very bottom local hex style, which are about 2 nautical miles across, which is about 2.5 miles, thereabouts. Actually, it's less than that. It's what, 2.24 miles, thereabouts. But let's look at, so now you understand scale, let's look at the map. So right now we're looking at black. So we need to get down. Oh, there's some color. We're on the very far left side. So there are some of our hexes, but let's take the scale down so you can understand the size of what we're working with. Come on. The web app always goes, I don't want to do this, is too many hexes. I wasn't built to do this. So that's the scale of what we're working with. So those are massive. So all this text that you see up and around here, those are the text for the big atlas hexes that we use. So there are 4 scales of text map that just to briefly go over everything. So there's atlas, region, county, local, and so it's hexes within hexes all the way down. So these that are laid out are the big atlas hexes. So these are the ones that have very specific, notable areas, locations, points of interest within that are appropriate. Since we have 4 levels of mapping, I just tied them to the 4 levels of adventure tiers. Those are appropriate for 17 plus leveling levels, average party level stuff that's kind of going on. So those would be the areas where we're going to set stuff that happens for like big adventures, like at the end of the book, published adventures kind of stuff. So we have a bunch of different sites there. So we have these sort of like major religious sites, major ruins, world wonders. We have some big monstrous layers, so that's where we're going to have our big like CR30 stuff. We're going to have our big lich layers and super ancient red dragons and all the big stuff, all the good stuff. The places where gods get summoned, things of that nature. Which makes sense because that's also our major ruins. So big dungeons and big religious places. So if there's anything that's there's somebody who's trying to resurrect a dead god, and all of that sort of wild stuff, and princes of the hells and things like that. Those are the places where that's kind of stuff's going to be done. So as you can see, it's a lot of hexes. We're way down here still. I think I'm right here. I think I'm just going across. So it's a slow toil. This is definitely a background thing I'm doing as GM. And I do want to put that disclaimer. We're going to put the disclaimer out real quick. Hey, if you're thinking about being a dungeon master or game master, and you're thinking about starting your own game, don't do this. This is a terrible example of what you should be focusing on. This is all the stuff that I do that's not focused on my game, on the background. This is because I have a specific world that I want to build and play in, and I want to run games in. Just that's kind of my own, and this is the sort of way that I like to engage with that game, just so I can have all this big hex map stuff done. You do not need to do this, and you probably shouldn't do this. This is very much a me thing, and other dungeon masters that operate like me. So I do want to show you just about the whole world. So we're dealing with this central continent right here. I'm just going to draw on this map and not save it. So let's get some red. So that place we're looking at is it's a very tiny line. Let's increase that brush size a little bit. Let's go like 55. That's pretty big. So we're dealing with everything that's in here. So yeah, we're dealing with everything that's in this area. That's what we're looking at. So this is the middle size. It's the central continent. It's the second largest continent. There's a third larger continent over here on the right. And there's also this slightly smaller continent that's over here on the left. The one continent that's kind of divorced from everything that's kind of out on itself. So it's a little bit different. Now the thing is that the map that we're working on right now, I've already done that scale for the other map, for the left continent. So that's what that looks like. So again, if you're an aspiring dungeon master or game master, or even an experienced one, don't do this. This is not as helpful as it seems like it could be. This is more just a thing for me and understanding and me building my world while trying to understand things that are in it. And this is all very top-down world building that you don't need to do. And this is not informed a ton of my campaigns, like the campaign I'm running right now. The campaign I'm running right now, let's just go here, is it's actually happening. I can show you exactly which hex it's happening in. Let's get about 30. So about the right size? Yeah. So the one that I'm running right now happens exactly right there. That is where the campaign's happening. and we've run what 18 sessions of it, and they're right there. They're nowhere near the scale. They're still pretty low. I'm very slow. I'm very stingy with levels. I know. It could be a good dungeon master thing. Could be a bad thing. Kind of depends on how you feel about that kind of stuff. I play the game not necessarily to do the power leveling thing. I bring that stuff out of me really, really early on in my how I engage with the hobby. So I'm not a huge power gamer, but I was when I first started. But now I'm very less concerned. Honestly, the weird thing is that often when we level up in the game that I'm playing with, I'm often a little bit disappointed because it usually feels like the leveling's happening too early to me. It'll be like, oh, we've had like 5 sessions to have a level, and I'm like, but we haven't. To me, as a player and how I run as a bench master, I'm like, we haven't really accomplished anything in those like 5 sessions. I mean, we did stuff, but we didn't like finish an adventure or maybe hit a milestone always. Sometimes it's like we're right in the middle of something like, or we're going into the big fight, and then that's when the level pop happens. Um, and it's obviously not any shade that I'm trying to throw on other dungeon masters who do that. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying, for me, it feels a little, I think, narratively unfulfilling. Like I want those power bumps, and maybe this is like anime brain in my head, to come associated to story beats, and only story beats, and not just a thing that happens. Or if you wanted to do it, it's like a very long downtime, which sometimes they do like a time skip or something like that in a anime, and you're like, oh, and then they come back and they've got new cool powers to show off. I think that could be cool too. So yeah, that's the whole world. That little dot specifically where we're playing in our campaign. This area right here is what we're working on the mapping. We're like right down. I think we're working on. I think I just did this hex. Maybe the one next to it. And we're just going across the bottom here. So we've got a very, very long way to go. And the Arctic part, I do think I did kind of want to show this specifically on stream because it is kind of more difficult. It is one of the most difficult areas to kind of stock with stuff, just because of the nature of the biome is really difficult because there's not a ton of animals. There shouldn't be a super ton of people down here. If you look at stuff like the D&D monster manuals and things like that, and you look at monsters that are associated with the Arctic region, there's just not a lot. So you kind of have to go off of that. So there are going to be things down here that I know, even though I'm stalking them, I may be stalking them with normal monsters or not paying attention to the Arctic biome aspect, paying as much attention to the biome aspect when I'm assigning monsters to a place or things that are happening in here. I know that I'm going to have to go back in and probably do a little tweaking, either reskinning or maybe a little homebrew, a little customizing of monsters and things like that. Kind of put things together just to make them a little bit more thematic for being in the Arctic. Like, what is the one? Like, one of the ones that I did the other day, and I was working on this just a little bit, is I added these, like, Arctic dogs, which are basically giant hyena that I'm going to have to reskin for cold. So I'll probably take stuff from, like, Winter Wolves and mix that in with the giant hyena. And then that should probably get me where I need to be in a thematic way. But you're going to have to do that, especially when you're dealing with stuff in the Arctic, because D&D is like, oh, being in the cold. We don't deal with that. We have the one adventure for that, and we don't do anything else with that. Most everything that's D&D adjacent is very sort of like Western European, so very temperate forest kind of base in general. Yeah, they do some desert stuff. Yeah, they're going to do some stuff that's in the cold. Yeah, you've got Cholt, it's got the jungle crawl in it, but those are the outliers rather than the regular. You don't see a ton of like biome environment diversity in a lot of D&D products. I mean, you can look at looking at the releases of stuff that they put out, how much stuff is in the Sword Coast. And the Sword Coast is just such a small area of the overall map that is Faerun. And it's always in or around the Sword Coast mostly. It's the stuff that they put out. Gun realms, so it's like, but the realms are huge. Like, Cholt's in the realms. So, I mean, like, there's other stuff in there that, like, we could explore and might be interesting rather than retreading the same, Waterdeep locations, Ten Towns, Baldur's Gate, Neverwinter. We don't have to retread the same handful of places again and again and again. So yep, that's what it looks like. This is what we're working on as far as scale is, except we're this kind of much larger than this. No, I don't need to save that change. All right, so that's where it is. That's where we're going. So let's get into it a little bit. Let's do a hex. But let's drop our scale back up to, I think we were at 20. And all the way down here. Okay, here we go. Like I said, I'm probably gonna have to move this so that way. You have to staring at map. I have a. Where are we at? Okay, yeah. And I'm adding some roads in there. I'm don't usually add the roads in, but I'm adding roads in just to kind of toy with it. So I may go back and just be like, I don't want to use all these roads. These roads look silly because the road and river tool and this web app, which is TextML, which I like and I obviously use it a lot. That's I don't think you can see it. Can you up here? Yeah, you can see it. That's hextml.playest, not playtest, playest, playest.net. So hextml.playest.net. It's free. You can grab it. That's one of the reasons I like it. It's got some nice map icons that I like using. It's got the stamps aspect. Gives you the ability to put notes directly into it and save it. You can make local saves with it, which is nice, which means that I can take it with me and open it up and work on it wherever I want to. Which doesn't come up very often, but I like that I'm able to save it locally. I don't have to have an account or something with it to like cloud save it. And so yeah, okay, so we're on this head. We are all right. Let's move some stuff around. Let's shuffle. Nope. Let's do it this way. Up. And we'll do. There we go. So that way you guys can see the map. This is going to be a little awkward for me because usually I have it on the right side, so I'm going to be going left and I'm just going right. So we'll see how well I deal with that. This could actually be a little bit smaller. I don't really. Well, I'm looking at this too. I'll get this a little bit larger. Down here. So this is also to deal with the hex update I did, which I didn't put a date on, which I really should have. We'll say, what's this from? When did I do this update? Like last month? What was that about? I like to date it so that way I know I have a lot of these sorts of files. So it's very useful to know when I've done something. That way I can actually keep track of whether I'm using the new thing or the old thing. And sometimes I want to save the old one so I can go back and reference it in case something in the new version's not working right. Alright. This will be our next topic. We're gonna do a double pass. We'll do the first pass, maybe we'll take a look at a question or something like that, and then we'll come back and do so I'll do something where I lay down the points of interest, then we'll come back and do a swing back through and for the hex, and we will take a look at defining those a little bit. We'll put some text down for them. So we're just laying stance right now. That's all we're going to do for this first area. So the first thing we got to do. So we are in the wilderness. This is potent. This is on the right side, which you can't see. My head's just going to be everywhere. I don't think we're going to get around that, unless let me. I'll just make sure there's a second page so that we can pull this up a little bit. Just go away. Move this up. 150 too large? No, 150 is not too large. Okay. So we're in the wilds because we don't have a large point of interest next to it. All those large texts, we don't have one of those next to us, which means we're not in the marches. So if we were in one of those big hexes, we'd be in a settled area. We're not in one of those areas. We're not in the hex next to it, which would be sort of the marches, the frontier area around it. So we're actually anything outside of that means that you're in the wilds. Which just kind of changes the types of the likelihood of certain points of interest coming up and what those points of interest are going to be tied to. So once we get into the wild, It means that we're less likely to come across artificial stuff, so like constructs, humanoids, giants, um, even undead. We're not oozes. We're not as likely to come across those sorts of things that are often really, really tied to people, because there aren't going to be as many people in the wilds. So most of it's going to be natural stuff. So you're going to have a lot of natural beasts that are in the area, which is really hard at the higher levels. So there are going to be lots of beasts, monstrosities, dragons, elementals, those sorts of things. Things that kind of happen in the natural world. I say that it's hard at this scale because when you roll something like beasts, beasts cap out in D&D around like CR9s. We're actually like way above that CR. We're looking at APLs 11 through 16. So, we're dealing with like CRs that's going to be like 13 through, right, like what, 19? Something like that. For big bad monsters, and there's just no beasts that fall within that range. So anytime that we roll up something that's a beast, I gotta squish my brain a little bit because it's either we put so many beasts on the table to make it some sort of a match for the encounter for those players for that party that's in that level range, which is stupid because like I don't want to be running like 100 wolves or something like that. Like that's silly. So then we kind of have to go, like I said, what we're already doing with Arc is we got to take something there and then maybe we mix it up a little bit. Maybe we look at some similar sort of monstrosity or something like that. We try to keep it in the natural area, but sometimes we can't, and sometimes we'll just kind of look at stuff that's within that CR that we're trying to hit, and then try to match a couple things together and try to make something new. So it'll be a new monster or this sort of dire or fiendish version of a normal beast that's so large. I'm thinking sort of how you see things that are like, oh, you have frogs and you have giant frogs and you have like froghemoth. You're like, yeah, it's a frog, but also it's definitely not a frog. It's definitely a monstrosity and a weird thing. But it does allow us, so that's sort of kind of going along that gauge. We have to make that in froghemoth thing sometimes because there's usually not something that fits that. And then we still have a 1 in 3 chance that something's just going to be weird. That's aberrations, phase, usually sort of extra planar threats. Celestials has the same problem Beast does, is that they're very low in CR. So if you hit something that's high, a high CR thing, actually it's a problem across a lot of the different types of monsters you run into because of that. Monstrosities are probably okay, but sometimes like there's not a lot of high level Fae or Celestial, so when you roll those up on this weird, you kind of have to mess stuff with around. Lucky thing is that there's plenty of Fiends that are usually high level. So if you just take a Fiend and say like a Celestial, and you put those stat blocks side by side, you can just basically kind of invert stuff about whatever the Fiends are, and be like, Celestial thing. So if like, oh, well, they're immune to fire, okay, well, the Celestial's obviously going to be immune to Radiant. And maybe fire as well. Never know. You're like, oh, they do this thing where they do necrotic damage or something like that. Okay, so obviously we're going to make that radiant damage. And you just kind of swap things up again, reskin it a little bit if you want to. So that sort of stuff is possible. Alright, I talked a lot. Let's roll. I'm going to put this over here. Yeah. So because we're in the wilds, there's only a 1 in 6 chance that there's going to be a point of interest. So we're just going to start here at the top, and we're just going to go boop, 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 boop. I'm just going to go down. The only thing we have to be careful about is this water hex down here, because once we get up to the water hex, instead of using a D6 die, we'll bump it up into a D10 die. Hey, SD Saints, what's going on? We're just doing some light mapping today. That's kind of what we're going to focus in on, because I didn't have a chance to prep a lot of other stuff today. I'm going to make the scale a little bit larger. Get in here. There we go. Maybe one more. I'll make sure. There we go. We're doing just this little hex right here. Hopefully things are going well with you guys. So like I said, we're just going to roll a d6. See what we get. A 2. So remember, we only go on a 1. Essentially, that we have a 1 in 6 chance of there being a point of interest once we get out into the wilds. So we're going to roll quite a bit and not having a ton to show for it. 2. I'm just counting. 3. Okay, so on the third hex, we're going to have something. And I can actually go ahead, and we always know that we're going to be rolling a d20 for this. If we were doing something in the settled area, there's a chance that we might be rolling a d12, because the first 12 or so entries on this 1d20 table are a little bit more tied to stuff that you're going to come across in a settled area. You have more settlements, fortifications, religious sites, travel havens, crossings, creature layers. Because creature layers, you might go, that's weird. Creature layers like dungeons? It's like, yeah, but creature layers can also be humans too. It could be a bandit hideout. It could be a robber baron's castle. It could be a lot of different things. Some sort of meeting place where people come together. An isolated homestead of some sort of pariah or hermit or something like that. Mage towers are one of the classic examples of a spellcaster that lives off by themselves. Some sort of info, omen, or warning sign, a natural resource, a construction. Which is, I like this because it's one of the things that doesn't come up a lot in D&D or like hex mapping is to show we see a lot of places that already exist and a lot of places that are ruined, but we don't often show a lot of places in the world where things are being built. So this is a nice thing. If you add some stuff like construction or a place that's been under repairs, like it's been damaged and it's being repaired, it gives this more of a sense that the world is living and progressing. And then once your player characters or the party interface like actually come across the construction, look at it, and talk to some people, you can actually just start tracking how far the construction is. So up until that point, it's just kind of static in the background. You don't need to worry about it. Then once they hit it, be like, oh, here's this thing. And then once people maybe come back in and they come and see it again, you can roll again and see like how much has the thing progressed. And so in real time, like as you're playing, if people come back to this location 2 or 3 times, they can see like that construction is continuing until it reaches 100%, and then it just becomes that point of interest. It just becomes that thing that they were rebuilding. You're number 1. That's right. It's supposed to be chat's guide. As I say, it's self-appointed god, the best kinds of gods. Great. How you doing? I'm doing not too bad myself. All right, so number 3. Did we roll our 20? We did. We rolled a 4. So we got some sort of travel haven, which means that we're just going to drop down a little heart. I rekeyed some of the things. So now I only have 2 things that use the same stamp. I have ruins and remains that use the same stamp, which is the pirate flag stamp, which I think still works. I wish I could differentiate them a little bit more, but based off of the kind of stamps that I get in XML, there's not a super great one for either ruins or remains that are other than the pirate flag. So I'm just using the same for both. Where are we? You're lost in practice. We're at the very, very bottom of the center continent. Oh, I just put the map away. Yeah, just put the map away. Yeah, we're at the very, very central continent of the world that I have, and we're all the way down at the very bottom. We're at the polar Arctic. Here, I'll zoom in a little bit so we can see. So we're down at the very bottom. You can see this. Like just disappeared on me. For the water area. Where are we going right? It's fine. Yeah, we have stickers. We have stamps. Yeah, so we're way down here. This bottom section over here. I guess. Right. Sorry, we're down here. Right. We're in one of these. I'm trying to remember. Where I left off. I think we're right here. We'll see when I zoom in. So we got a lot to go. Actually, we're down over here. That's fine. Oh. Yeah. So we're zooming in, working on the Arctic stuff. Yeah, here we go. What scale are we working at? Oh. Right? I think we're working on 20? No, we're above 20, I think. Yeah, we'll do like 24. 24 So yeah, we're way down in the Arctic area. Come on. Too much. Losing my place. Here we go. So, yeah. And so we're just doing the stance right now. Oh yeah, yeah. So we're starting on the other continent because we finished the left continent. I think in some of the previous streams, or maybe I finished it off stream. So yeah, totally different continent, starting all the way down at the bottom. So that is where we do. All right, and we'll move on and roll. Our next point of interest is going to be. So I'll just keep both of those going. 1, 2. We're just counting the hexes. 3. Got to get a 1. 4, 5, 6, 7. 7, and we're getting number 7. Oh, sorry, number 8. Isolated homestead. There we go. We'll just take our little house icon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Boop. Plop that down right there. Do I try and summon a demon before? Let's see. There's a chance that we might roll up a demon here. We'll see. There's a likelihood we might. Let's get across stuff. We got a 1 in 3 chance of weird stuff being here if we hit some sort of lair or wandering monster. We have a conclave of young dragons that are already flying around here, or coterie, I think is what I called them. A coterie of young dragons that are trying to establish a lair in the in this Arctic area. Which I imagine that I could build an entire campaign around this sort of young coterie of dragons. They'd probably cap out at probably like level, like 8 or 9, because you can't go too far with young dragons, or else these big bads are not going to work anymore. You get too high a level. But I could do up to that, and it's sort of like it's a little, I guess it's a little bit like the old Critical Role of the Conclave. So it's a little bit close, but they're young dragons that are definitely barely in alignment, and they're more like siblings that have a lot of rivalry, a lot of infighting. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 5. 6, 7, 8, 9, and 11. Okay, 11. We got 7, which is the meeting place, right? Yeah. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Ah, we just missed those hills. Now I could cheat and put it on the hill. It is literally the only thing that's in this landscape. So sometimes we don't follow the dice and we just go, the meeting place might make more sense if there was this hill area overlooking sort of this frozen water. I like that better, so we're just going to drop that in there. That feels like a more thematic place for a meeting place, so I'm going to drop that in there. And then we'll just backtrack and we'll just redo that hex to see if something else was in that hex. You're not getting more XP. Yeah. It would be very interesting. That's a good point. Is like that would be very interesting if we had Dungeon Master or Game Master experience points to level things up. That would be interesting. I feel like some games, where they give you a budget of like things to put in the adventure, which I guess D&D does kind of. They kind of got away from that. That was a little bit more of like a 4th edition and I think a 3rd edition thing where you can kind of count traps and hazards. Because they had experience points tied to them, you could use them as in your encounter building budget, so you could have a combat encounter in which there were traps and hazards as well, and you could actually budget it out like they were a monster in combat, which is very cool. But it'd be interesting to be like, okay, you have an adventure and you have these budgets of XP to make encounters with. And I say that's interesting. They've literally all done this. This was literally how the 4th edition and their adventure path, their life play. Oh gosh, what was it called? Anyways, it was stuff that your open play, your public play, or you Adventurers League stuff. It was that for 4th edition, and they did give you they did a bunch of pre-published modules, a ton of like one-shot adventures that you mainly use as you run through. But then they had this product called My Realms as well, which gave you the ability. Then they basically gave you a handbook as a dungeon master and be like, hey, if you want to make your own adventure and run it for like live open play, here's how you do that. And so it did actually give you an adventure budget and be like, okay, here's the experience budget you can have. We we advise that you have kind of this many encounters to fill up the appropriate sort of like 3 to 4 hour time frame. And so you can take your budgets and kind of give you a few different guidelines about sort of like minimums and maximum spends for that experience that you have from the adventure. And you kind of like put in the different buckets and made out your story and made out your encounters with that. So it was a cool system. I did think that it was very helpful for as a new for new dungeon masters, game masters to be like, here is a very sort of ironclad template for how to make a very simple one shot, and how you can just take this budget for, and you get the outlines for like different level ranges. You can take those and reuse this formula again and again and again and make adventures with it. Now, at some point, those adventures are going to be kind of samey, but you can probably make, what, 10, maybe 20, depending on your group, before they start to really understand the aspects of what you're doing. It was also the Adventurers League thing, so that open D&D, the adventures were already really formulaic, so that was kind of expected. Everybody knew that they were probably going to have, in 3 or 4 hour time period, they knew they were going to have about 3 encounters, sometimes 4 encounters. In the very rare case, 2 encounters, or at least like 2 combat encounters. Sometimes it would be like investigation or social stuff in the middle that would be considered as an encounter that had its own budget. So, but oftentimes, yeah, you had like 3 or 4 different fights do that and kind of go through that stuff, which is really useful. So let's do it this way. I'm just going to keep clicking on these guys. All right, so that one before did not have one, so we're just going to get rid of that. So remember, we got to have a 1. There we go. We got a 1. We got a 9. What's 9? Info, omen, or warning sign. And for that, we're using the blue bed. And this is the third one away. So we have 1, 2, 3. Boop. It goes down there. So again, yeah, there shouldn't be a lot of stuff in this Arctic area. It's in the Wilds Wilderness region, so we know that that's not going to come up very often. So we got 2 more before we get there. Then we have that water hex. So again, we have to roll a 1, so it's less likely that things are going to be on water hexes. Okay, didn't get anything there. Alright, but the one after it does have something in it. A 20, and I know that's a hazard off the top of my head. Alright, so right after this little water hex, we can come back down. There's some sort of a hazard. We've got quite a few nasty hazards that are down in here. Why did I do it that way? And we'll just go with these numbers. 1, 2. We only have 6 left. 3. 4. And our last one. And that's it. That's it for this hex. That's all that's going to be in this hex. So, as you can see, like, that comes up in these wilderness hexes. There aren't a ton of points of interest. At least at this level. Actually, at any level, there's not going to be a ton of points of interest. So, I did have this feeling the world is like, there's lots and lots of stuff if you get in the settled areas. There's tons of points of interest everywhere. There's all sorts of adventure sites. There's all sorts of, but a lot of them are very humanoid focused, very artificially focused. So that's where you're going to come into a lot of sort of like squabbling minor nobles who are going against each other, having fights. You have lots of places to make crossings, cross rivers or gorges and things like that. Lots of those kinds of crossings. You're going to have tons of that. So there's infrastructure around it as well. There's lots of travel havens, places that are safe for you to stop and camp for the night. Or not camp, get a room, generally. It'll be safe for you to... They're safe havens where you can take good long rests there. You can do downtime there if you want to. Those sorts of things. There's secure locations. And you'll have lots more these isolated homesteads, people that you can run across, lots more hermits that live humanoid adjacent. They still live on the fringe of society. And once you get out into the wilds, there's there's fewer and fewer people. So like in this one, now this travel haven's gonna have a little village attached to it. But you have that, and then you have our isolated person who's just living out here all by themselves. Now, I'm still kind of torn on this as I'm doing these, whether I want to attach some sort of settlement when the other points of interest are this large. I think sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't make sense, so I don't really have a hard and fast rule on it yet. So, like, if this ended up being a wizard's tower or something like that, I probably wouldn't put a village attached to it. But if it's a former adventurer, maybe, maybe not. Um, it's a neutral monster, maybe, maybe not. But now we need to talk a little bit about what this is going to be. So we're going to go over here to our hex thing and pull up our secret notes. This is an area that allows us to kind of put some information in here. I should have probably opened this up to begin with, just to give you guys a little bit more room to look at stuff that was not just staring at the bottom of the screen. The first thing we're going to put in here is our APL. This is for anything that's here. We know it's for adventuring parties 11 through 16. And then let's take a look at our upgrades. We can go down here. I think this is very much an in-work document, so it is real messy. But what do we have here? We have a travel haven. Alright, so I'm just going to roll on this. We get a 1d6. Oh, we rolled a 1. It's cabin or a hunting lodge. Which one do we like better? I think I've already got a hunting lodge down here, so I might go cabin just because we don't have it. So it's just some sort of random cabin that's out here. Hunting lodge maybe makes a little bit more sense for an APL 11 through 16, just because it might be a larger location. It's a little bit more grand because you're dealing with a higher party level. Or it could be like a super, super haunted one or something like that. Maybe that's why that's here. So, since we want some of those questions answered, let's go ahead and answer a couple of those questions. So we know that it's either going to be a cabin or a hunting lodge. That's great for us. Let's go to... So I'm going to roll. We're in the wilds. But sometimes it's helpful to just roll these little guys down here. We're going to roll another d6, and then we're going to throw a d20 on top of that. 4. Okay, so it's going to be some sort of natural thing. And 6, which I think may be... Uh-oh, we got more dragons. Oops, all dragons. Oh, you guys cannot see what I'm looking at. There we go. I should hold this up. I'm talking about these tables down here. My bad. What about this? So it kind of gives us, I like to use these as sort of like a thematic, kind of gives me a thing to go with. And so our theme here is kind of dragon. So this could be, that doesn't necessarily mean dragons. It just means that it's got something, it's kind of like a motif. Something we'll try to do something with dragons. Just try to zhuzh it up a little bit. I do like, so we know that we have some dragons down here already. Let's do this. Let me do this. We're gonna go down here. Up, 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 up. Let's go our APLs. We're gonna just push it all the way up to say we're level 16. Let's do our filter down here. I'm gonna grab creature type. You know that we're facing Dargans. Alright, so we could definitely put a young dragon in here. So we're definitely in the ranges that we could throw a young dragon in here. And that would be either an incredibly deadly one, which maybe makes sense. Let's just roll a d6 so we know it's 11 through 16, so this will give us our number. 16. Okay, so we are balancing something for like a level 16 encounter. So just something. So we could throw a young dragon in there. Let's get our CRs going. Nope, not ones. I need the... There we go. That's saying CR because that doesn't sound right. Oh, because it would be a absolute metric ton. So we could throw an adult in here, or a couple of adults. Maybe a trio of adults. So we could do that. We could do that. So we know it's not necessarily a layer. It could also just be a whole bunch of Dragonborn, too, or Dragonkin. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a full dragon. Roll d20 on deception. Let's see if it'll be able to make you believe my next phrase. I'm good. I'm not tyrant god at all. I'm a helpful, loving god. I'm not a bad or violent one. I'm not the fire and brimstone type of deity. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah, sure. We'll roll a d20 on that. What do you think? 13? 13 is pretty good. You're definitely going to get some followers with that. And maybe culty, but what is a cult if not just a baby religion? So yeah, let's. So we could throw a dragon in here. What are other options? I mean, once you get into dragons, it's really just kind of dragons. And yeah, so we already have some dragons down here. Ooh, that we have these guard drakes too. Wyverns. The problem is that then we don't have a big thing. That cabin, if it was close to the water, we might look at something like a dragon turtle, but that's much to say. So I think I'm gonna do. If we did this, what do we look at if I do some humanoids? All right, let me just do both. How about that? Because I think we could throw some kobolds in here. We could throw some dragonborn in here, just to make things a little bit better. Okay, could be an abjure and some young dragons. That's interesting. Yeah, and we can take any of the humanoids and just reskin them as dragonborn. So Drow Shadowblades, Yankee Gish. We're like, but why are they down here? This could be a cabin for hunting dragons. Maybe this is a dragon hunting cabin. There we go. We'll just put that. Let's say a dragon hunter lodge. I like that. Maybe it's just a dragon hunter lodge because this is an area that's gonna have a village in it, which means it has to have something between 400 and 1,000 population. I'll just roll this. Yeah, looks pretty good. 525, and it's gonna have a village attached to it. And at this point, that's really all the information I want to know about this particular point of interest. This is enough to give me an idea of like, okay, this is a place. I know there's a dragon hunter lodge here, so that means that there's for hunting dragons. So given this APL, it means that I can't throw just a random dragon adventure in here that they hunt maybe a big white dragon or maybe a blue dragon. I don't really care about the color. They can hunt a dragon throughout not the tundra, the Arctic wastes. That'd be fun. Maybe a fun encounter. But that does tell us there's like, oh, interesting. Because I don't think, yeah, that's the gray render pack. And I could tie that to this gray render pack that I did previously, where you have a gray render pack that is lost, and I had down here is just a note. The previous bonded master is lost or dead. If that was one of our hunters from this dragon hunting lodge, who was like a ranger who had this gray render pack that they took with them to hunt dragons, that'd be pretty dope. Make a pretty easy adventure right there by throwing a couple of points of interest together. Go here, you get the adventure, or you go here, and you pick up the gray renders and take them back here. Any of those can be the start to this adventure, and then the rest of the adventure is trying to figure out where the dragon is, or dealing with the dragon if maybe it has some sort of reprisal attack, and then hunting it down to maybe its lair, or just cornering it and taking it out. That's a full adventure right there. Or at least the bare bones of an adventure. Ice Elemental Dragon, Dragonborn. Yeah, definitely a cold dragon. Like we'd probably use a white dragon. I don't like white dragons as much because they're very brutish. By that I mean they hit hard, but they don't have a lot of stuff going on upstairs. They're not particularly smart. They're the dumbest I think of the dragons. So it makes them hard to be like a villain because it's a little bit like making a Tyrannosaurus Rex like the villain. You're like, well, unless you're like throwing somebody else's brain in it, it's, it's a big it's a big beast. It wants to eat things. That's kind of what it does. It does make ice resistant more. They're definitely resistant to cold damage. I don't think they have vulnerability to fire, but I think depending on if you're trying to make things more thematic, you very much do that. You can definitely get them because I think they actually probably have immunity to cold. White dragons do for sure. But yeah, I can definitely see giving them some sort of vulnerability to fire. But fire is so common to come across as a D&D adventure, there's so many things that allow you to have fire damage, including most spellcasters are going to have at least a few different fire spells generally in their repertoire. And then you might pick up weapons that do it, or, I was going to say Alchemist Flask. It's not it, but flasks of oil you can throw in kind of Molotov cocktail against them. So that could dismissively make it super easy. So you have to be careful with that. So I might give them more hit points if I really think they're going to bring a lot of fire damage. Then just to ensure that they have sort of what feels like a challenge-worthy fight. If you're going up a big nasty monster, you expect the big nasty monster to be big and nasty. So you do. It's definitely not the thing that you want them to roll in, and then everybody shoots fireball on it, and it's vulnerable and has a crappy dex save, and just immediately gets nuked. No, sometimes that just happens anyways, but that would be a thing that I would be trying to look around. So I might be like, maybe I'll give it a little bit more hit points, or I'm going to give it some way to deal with fire, maybe some way so I can get some cover or concealment or something like that. So not as easy to just nuke into oblivion. All right, we have our isolated homestead over here. Pop this back up. Up, up. There we go. So our isolated homestead, we have a 6 here, so that's roll 6. Roll 1. Some sort of exile or outcast. Let's figure out which one it was. Oh, an exile. Okay, so somebody who's been exiled. I'll just go ahead and isolate the homestead there. I'm sure I won't forget. It's one of the easiest map icons for me to remember. But I'll put it in there anyways. And then we could go ahead and find out a little something. So we know it's going to be some sort of humanoid person. This can give us a good roll for it. This is also something where I might use like one of our D100 like Oracle tables or something like that. I don't have one out in front of me. No. I got my bag. I think there's one in my bag. Get my game bag. May have one. If so. And it's nice to have one of those D100 Oracle charts. Just because it'll give you an idea if you need a reason, like a why for something happening. They're really good for that. Ready for this. Let me see if I have it. I may have taken it out of here because I haven't been running with it lately. I've got one. Which one is this? This is Shadow Darks, which I do like Shadow Darks one, which is why it's one of the ones I keep in my GM binder. D100 table. So let's find out maybe like what's kind of going. Just some sort of like why this person was exiled. 38. Pool. Okay, pool what? Pool 43. Pool nature. Oh, maybe this is like a Walden Pond sort of situation. They're pulled by nature. Yeah, but it is in exile. So why were they exiled? Well, I mean, if it's Walden, it's. Well, I'm not sure I want it to be as real as something like that is. Whereas more about like homosexuality. I'm not sure I want it to be quite that realistic. Both by nature. We have to figure out where they're exiled from. So I'm just gonna leave that down there. I don't need to figure it out right now. It's just kind of a. It's just something that kind of gives me. I'll just put the actual thing. Full nature. I'll just leave a little note for myself, like this is the Oracle roll, which can give me some insight, maybe. Some kind of artifact or an item that lets partially negate the weaknesses to make it worth it. Oh yeah, yeah. If they have something that'll against the fire, yeah, that would be super useful. Immunity or make it harder if you're able to just get rid of it. You get a huge advantage instead of a disadvantage. Yeah, I think there's definitely ways that you could go about it. I think you can use the terrain a lot. Like if you wanted to have a creature like, let's say this is an Arctic area, so if you were having a fight with a white dragon, you can both use the sky to your advantage, which I would definitely have them maybe fight in like a snowstorm or something like that, or in a place that's got a snowdrift in it, like deep snow. So it's both like the dragon can either get concealment and get away, and then kind of come flying out of the blizzard at them, or can basically essentially burrow through existing snow, which means the fire's going to hit the snow. It's not really going to do a ton. So that would maybe at least mitigate the vulnerability to it if they're able, if they only hit the dragon while it's under the snow. You heard Asriel, god of hyper death. That's funny. Yeah. So I think we're gonna go with pulled nature. I don't need to figure that out right now. It's just kind of a note for me later. So if it comes up, I can be like, oh, this person's exiled. And then as I flesh out more of the map, it'll give me more points of interest around to try to figure out, where this person is exiled from. They could be just from this village over here, maybe, maybe not. Um, from the Dragon Hunters Lodge, maybe it has something to do with them. Yeah, maybe this is like they were exiled for standing up against the Dragon Hunters. That's a very easy way to do that because they felt the pull of nature and be like, yeah, we think that trophy hunting these dragons that are kind of in this Arctic area minding their own business maybe isn't super ethical, and that would probably make you an exile in that sort of community. All right, what's going on down here? So this is our meeting place, which is a 7, right? Jeez. Well, 6. And again, I don't have to be beholden to these rolls. I just like to use them a little bit, just to kind of give me an idea of what's here. But sometimes if I have a really good idea, like we say, we just go with that. Always use your ideas and only rely on the dice to kind of give your brain a little percolate. So we got some neutral ground, hill folk, or monster meeting place. Ooh, okay. Do we want hill folk or monsters? I'm leaning more monsters than hill folk, though I think it could be cool to have a hill folk one. That could be interesting. So I'm gonna wait it a little bit. So 1 or 2, we're gonna go with the hill folk. All right, I didn't. So it's gonna be some sort of monster. All right, that gives us a pretty good idea. We'll just roll this 4. That means it's natural 4, which means I'm pretty sure it's gonna be a beast. We'll double check. I don't need to double check. I know there's nothing before beast. 1 through 4 is definitely beast. All right, so this is a meeting place for beasts, apparently. Oh, we don't need to look at that. That's just document files. All right, so let's look at our filters again. Now we'll see all the difficulty that comes with this. Because now we got to go down to beasts. Now, you can see very quickly one of the issues we have here. Yeah, T-Rex tops out at CR8. That is very much a trivial encounter for almost everybody on here. Yeah, and it's a trivial encounter for one T-Rex is a trivial encounter for even our 11th level party. That would be trivial. So we could easily come up with a 2 dozen, or at least a dozen a dozen T-Rex roaming the icy plains. So you do see some of the problems. And we've already got some mammoth stuff in here. We could go giant ape though. The giant ape is very close to like Yeti, and we do have Yeti down here though. I think technically they're under monstrosity. So, a new friend. So what I want to do, I wanted something. What kind of makes sense? Okay, so let's look here. So in the Arctic, we need that this is some sort of beast area. Maybe this is. Why would they be rolling up into these hills? That's a good place for this. Something over here. Hmm. Maybe the hills are kind of a windbreak. kind of here. So are they here for like food? They could be here for water. Maybe there's maybe there's some sort of like, I'm thinking maybe some sort of like wintry cave that maybe allows the snow to melt and maybe like it's warm and there's water in there. Yeah, maybe something like that. So there's some sort of shelter here. So if you need stuff to be warm in the cold areas, you can always be like, oh, there's kind of like a geothermal situation going on. The nice thing about doing stuff with like geothermal, like if you're looking at lava and stuff like that, is that magma plumes kind of happen all over the place. So it doesn't have to be like on the fault line or in the mountains or something like that. Sometimes they just happen. There's just like thin parts of the crust and mantle that, or thin parts of the crust where the mantle kind of surges out through, because it's the crust is not uniform in density. So yeah, I think that makes sense in this area. There's like a geothermal cave. I'm gonna say with melted water. So it's a nice little sort of break from the winter. So when winter gets really, really bad, maybe they meet them. Some of the animals come up here. So we could do mammoths. I'll go ahead and make this an ice cave. I mean, it's an ice cave. So we've already got that gun going. So now we just got to figure out what kind of creature we want in there. So we know it's a beast. Sometimes it's just easier to do this. So I'm going to roll a d12. 3. Okay. And roll a d10. We'll see what we're going to get. A 1. Okay, so that would be rhinoceros. So what we're going to do is I'm going to just kind of like, yeah, it's going to be like a woolly rhinos. Woolly rhinos. I like it. So they're going to be woolly rhinos. That's what I'm going to say. Alright, so this is a place where there's a herd of woolly rhinos, which were kind of a thing, kind of like mammoths. But we don't have any actual beast that fits that, so if I have to do something with this somewhere down the line, in a month, in a year, in 10 years, whatever it is, and end up being like, oh, I need to run this, I know when I look at that and be like, I'm definitely going to have to make a stat block on that. I have to figure that out. I can use sort of the rhino and maybe look at the mammoth and kind of bump it up from there, and then make sort of like maybe like an alpha rhino or something to lead the pack that they might have to deal with. And who knows what's going on here. So we know that it's a meeting place. So sometimes it's where multiple things come together. Are there any other? I mean, it could be mammoth would be the easiest thing to do. Yeah, no, we're just gonna leave it at woolly rhino. Rather than making it, because the other way to do it is like if it's a spot like that, it could be like a water source when you see it like the Serengeti or something like that, where it's got all different types of animals that are showing up at this watering hole where you have everything that's like giraffes and gazelles, and of course there are predators there, including like things like crocodiles that are in the water. Then you always see the nature videos that they go and they grab them, pull them back in. The giraffes. Oh, you're very close. You're very close on the spelling. Very close. It's a weird. It's got sort of like a French flair to it, at least when it's written down in English. All right, our next one here. So that's our part down here. We got our PL and 15, and it's going to be our info or omen, etc. Which is a 9. Yeah, 9. All right. So again, these are all just ideas. We kind of build off of them. If not, then we just kind of use what's there. Depending on how my brain feels today. Oh, an Earth mode or meteorite. Oh, yeah. No, I'm thinking like that's very easy because I don't have a lot of these in the world, so it's always nice to do. So I'm going to do that. This is maybe a meteorite crater. It's going to be like a Tunguska. I'll just put that in parentheses. That gives me an idea. Okay, so I know it's a meteorite crater. So things come down, hit the planet at some point. Big impact crater. And in fact, I'll just put impact crater. Yeah, I guess it should be technically Tunguska event like. So yeah, it's something like that. So that's a real thing in history that kind of gives me a point, which I find really useful when I'm doing things like filling out these world building stuff. I find it really useful to look at if it's an event that I know happened in the real world that I can kind of draw from a lot. So the Tunguska event will help with that, just because I know that. I know this camera is a little bit. That way, my smiling face is in the center of it, sort of off to the side. I moved it before the stream, and now I'm just moving it right back to where it was. That's fine. All right, so we have that down there. Do we want to add something to it? Do we want to add a flare? I think let's add a flare. Ooh, 1. Interesting. 1 and 12. So let's All right, so 1 and 12. So we're in the wild. So 1 is artificial, which I already knew, and 12 is humanoid. Okay, so there's some people down here doing something. Which means maybe it's not a meteorite impact crater. Maybe this is an artificial crater. So I'm going to actually take away impact crater. And be like, okay, so this is humanoid related. This is maybe like a man-made event/accident. So something went wrong here, or went right here. But this is so this is not obviously, yes, this is obviously what happened. So this was obviously probably a high-level caster who had cast Meteor Swarm, and then just blew this place the hell up. That's what happened. Now, if they go in there and investigate, well, they might learn some more about that history. They might learn about, what happened here, and depending on what's kind of going on in the campaign, I can sort of start to stitch that in to something that's overall going on in whatever campaign I'm running here. If they end up running across this, or maybe it's the birth of its own adventure, or maybe this is where they find something there. So I'm going to put a question mark there. I think this is, yeah, so it's an impact. Yeah, so we'll leave it a meteor. I'll leave it meteorite for now. Or sometimes I'll do that. I'll just put a question there. Be like, is this what it is? I don't know. We'll figure it out later. Meteorite, or yeah, it could be star metal, which I think is technically what they call adamantine, kind of. Orichalcum's kind of in that area too. So yeah, it'd be interesting. You could definitely make that the star metal kind of thing. Gaster Blaster Master has done it. All right, so we got one more down here, our last hex down here, and that we know is a hazard, which I know is all the way at the bottom, because that is a natural 20, baby. All right, we'll roll a d6, see what's going on here. Hazard means it's some sort of weird things going on here. We're ignoring that. All right, 4. Environment or terrain. Oh, something's going to go on here. Okay, so we're going to need to know some sort of source or origin, so we'll roll on that d6. Something weird. And something number 7. And boop. Number 7 on our weird table. Celestial. Okay, so some sort of celestial. Steel. So it's some sort of celestial influence terrain hazard. What could that be? What could it be? So we know it's a terrain hazard, so it's something that's kind of going on there. Let's maybe look at the monster. This is hard to do because we get in here and Celestials have the same problems that Beasts do, which is that that's the Celestial list. So it's the worst out of all of them. Out of all types of monsters, there's just nothing in the Celestial list. To have its own, it's almost to the point where it's like it just shouldn't have its own category if you were only going to put, what, 2, 4, 6, 8 things in it? Like 8 creatures across 4 bands of play. 2 of them, Solars and Empyreans, you're probably not even going to come across in most D&D campaigns. You're most likely to kind of come across kind of these middle guys. Kieran, Deva, Unicorns, Pegasus. Across that. So would any of these have, I'm looking at the list, would any of these really change what's going on in the Arctic area? How would they influence them in a hazardous way? So unicorns have groves usually. So maybe some sort of ice grove, that'd be kind of cool. Kind of dope. Problem is that unicorns are very low level. So yeah, for even just the 11th level party, so like the bottom of our range, I really need to be putting like up to a dozen of these guys in here. Probably 2d6 plus 1. Because if I got down to 3, it's 3 still like nothing, right? Yeah, trivial. So I'd probably make it like a d4. So 3d4 plus 1. So that means I'm going to have at least 4 in there. Likely to have. It could be a bad unicorn. Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be. None of these points of interest necessarily have to be something that's evil. But it is something that is damaging to the terrain, which I do think that the unicorn, as a creature who does not care about people, might find damaging terrain. We could also make it, if we wanted to go kind of down that route, we could have something that's a little bit more. It's, unicorn Pegasus adjacent if we wanted to go. So what we could do, because Nightmare's not going to show up until I move the filter, we could have a Nightmare. The Nightmare is only a little bit higher, and actually lower than Unicorn. So, but like a Nightmare could be a cool, sort of like a magma unicorn or something like that. That would be interesting. It's melting places. That would really screw up the terrain. It could just be. It could be just like a nice lizard. Well, it's gonna be a terrain effect. Well, it doesn't have to. That's what I rolled. Yeah, I was thinking we could go like a unicorn. I do kind of like that. Maybe it's sort of like a unicorn herd. So that gives us the ability to have a whole bunch of unicorns really easily. We can, like, if we go up to 16, there's like a buttload of them we can put in here. So up to, 32-ish. Yeah, that's a lot. So we could have a legitimately horde of unicorns, these Arctic unicorns, which would be pretty cool. Why not evil? Lawful evil? Yeah, you could go evil, very much. I'm not as worried as much with the alignment of stuff, especially at this point, but also just in general. You're not sleeping at nightmares or anything of mind. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, we're gonna say. Sorry, I'm just thinking, which I know is when I don't say it out loud, it's hard for you to know what I'm thinking about. So I was thinking maybe I wanted to do like a Thunder Hooves thing, like something that like rips up the ground. Maybe just like their thunderous hooves. Maybe it does do. Maybe it does do something cool like a seismic thing. I just don't want to like my thing is like if it's a thundering herd, it makes me think like, oh well, they would fall over because the earth shakes a whole bunch. And if we were in a hill or mountainous area, there could be like a um, avalanche kind of thing, but we're in basically just open plain. So that's not going to work as much. Um, and falling down is not that can't be the only hazard. That can't be the ultimate of its hazard. But maybe if it casts something that's like, yeah, maybe they're like hypersonic, and so they do like a thunder damage kind of thing when they roll past. I like that. So we're gonna say, because I like that. We'll call them unicorns. They could be Pegasus. They could actually Pegasi would work even better. So it would be like having a sonic boom of like an aircraft that's breaking the sound barrier as it rolls past you, and it's just the sort of thing that like breaks windows in houses and cars and stuff like that. Because it's just comes by and then there's the big boom, the sonic boom that comes after they pass by. So yeah, and then it does maybe like shatter or some other sort of thunder base spell kind of damage. Yeah, fire around if it was not that long time ago. That's true. But I think I like this hypersonic unicorn. It's stuck in my head now. I gotta go with it. And but I think I am gonna change this to Megason, which means that I could, depending on how players go about this, and depending on how a campaign was going, maybe this is the way that they can get some super dope mounts that'd be like leveled up Pegasus mounts that they could fly around on. And we're gonna say that they break the sound barrier and often deal. They often shake the ground and deal thunder damage. So I know that's not necessarily as terrain, but I do like that idea more than where we were going with it. Lighting light. Light speed, big friction fire. Yeah. Problem is, it's like everything's super permafrosted down there, so I'm not sure anything will catch on fire. It would have to be because you got to burn through all. You have to change the temperature so much because it's so cold of the actual material to get it to combust. But yeah, no, I like the idea that they leave like I'm thinking like Back to the Future like trails of flame in their wake. Well, that's pretty cool. I do like that. That'd be fun. That'd be a fun way to do it and be like, oh, sometimes you just kind of come across. Sure, let's try it. That's a little bit more terrain. I like that idea, so I'm gonna steal it. I like that idea, so we're gonna do that. So we're gonna go with the. We're just gonna change this, and we're gonna be like. So we're gonna make it a lightning unicorn. I liked that idea a lot. I liked what you pitched, and I'm taking it, and I'm gonna change it around a little bit. So we're gonna say that they create enough friction when they charge. They leave what essentially and I'm going to put this in here. Wall of fire in their wake. So yeah, now that makes a little bit more sense as a hazardous as a terrain hazard. Steal all you want. I'm not using it anyways. Good. Yeah, but this is a good idea. I really like that idea, and that's a little bit more into the thing that we were trying to go with. So we're trying to get that more of a terrain thing. So now they charge by so quickly that the herd leaves this essentially wall of fire in their wake. So if the players are trying to get through this area or maybe accidentally get encircled by the herd, they can't get out very easily. I'd have to know what wall of fire was, the level of the spell, but I leave it in there. It's a wall of fire like effect, and I can still change it because I know, depending on what level they are, I know what the damage for that thing's going to be. I'll use my XD6 plus X formula. So if they were, say, in this case, it said that they were 12th level, I'd make it 12d6 plus 12 amount of damage if you went into it, tried to push your way through it. Just to make it a real toothy kind of hazard. Since it's something that affects everybody who tries to go through it. Boom, done. That is one hex. I'll be honest, this usually goes a lot faster when I'm not talking about it. I've done probably a handful of hexes by now. But we can also look at this. All right, there we have our person here. Could they get here? Yeah, they could technically get here. Just because I'm doing the roads already, we'll make a road from here to here. That's a long... That is a long road, though. Let's see, they'll probably go here, 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 here. Okay, so that's a long trek. So there's probably not actually a road there, but we're gonna drop it in there. 2d10 every second. Well, that's all. That's already. That means that every round they're gonna take what 12d10 fire damage, which is pretty close to what I was saying already. That's gonna be almost exactly what I said with 12d6 plus 12. It's almost exactly the same number. So we'll go in. Let's go ahead and hop into our next. I'm actually gonna refill my coffee. We're gonna have this one should go. Oh man, fix that out so that doesn't screw with us later. This next hex is a water hex. So obviously this is an Arctic. This will probably not be water for the most part. It's going to be just full on glass ice, or it's probably actually cobbled ice because of the wind. But probably not going to be a lot of stuff in here because we're going to roll that 1d10. So there's only a 10% chance that each one of these water hexes is going to have anything in it. Each of these little guys. And then we'll do the 1d6 for these areas of land, these little islands that are in it. But before we do that, I'm going to get a refill on my coffee. So I got it right, basically. I was planning it. Yeah, almost exactly right on the head. So I guess that makes me evil if you're evil. And we have the same thing. I guess that also makes me evil DM, which fits. I'm a pretty tough DM when it comes to dealing out damage, so that's not anything new. To my players' own limits, I think sometimes. They don't get a lot of easy victories. They got one last night though. They skipped out of danger with some guards. But I didn't know how it was going to go. I didn't know if the session was going to, midway through the session, they were all going to be in jail or not. But they were able to step around it. And the guy who was investigating them got chastised. And now they're like, oh no, we ruined this guy's life. Kind of. Kind of. I mean, I don't think things were going great for him beforehand. He's a sad NPC. And now I know that I'm probably going to have to put more effort into that NPC. I'm going to have to flush him out a little bit more. Good, we're both evil then. So we're going to, before we jump into this next hex and do it, which should just take a second, probably not going to be a ton of it. Famous last words. I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to refill my coffee. So hold on real tight. I'll be back in just a minute, guys. All right. My dog is having a fit this morning, I'll tell you that. That is what he's doing. He's extra crazy this morning. He's crazy most of the time. And he's extra crazy this morning. I went out to get my cup of coffee, and he decided that he wanted to play. I tried to give him a little bit of entertainment before I run back in here. Oh, bring you some coffee. Yeah. Here you go. This one's for you. I'm just gonna leave it right here. And then I'm gonna get my cup of coffee, which is not the same cup of coffee. But you know, if you're not gonna drink yours, I'll drink yours, I guess. Yeah, no, I get my coffee from a local roaster, so it's not the old like Folgers or Maxwell House or something like that. It's or Starbucks, local roaster. I get beans from. They have a particular blend that I kind of like, which is sort of their morning blend, which I like. It is bright and caffeinated and gives me that dewy complexion, and these bright, definitely not tired eyes. Especially as I sit in a somewhat dark room staring at a computer screen. That is not helping that. Yeah, Gray's dog had to go grab another bag of coffee. It just ran out. So luckily I picked up another one. All right, let's see. While I was walking away, I was like, "Hey, we'll just do this." There's no reason I should hide that from you. I don't think. I'll just show you. So I was like, "Hey, where's it? There we go." I was like, "Hey, ChatGPT, take a look at some of the, like Reddit's like subreddits like DM Academy and tell me, well, what are some questions? We'll do a little question before we jump in." They kind of come up. Where do you find good maps? Dyson Logos. Dodecahedron. The guy's got, what, like thousands of maps at this point that are free for use. They're great, high quality. Some of them are in color, some of them are black and white. Lots of great dungeon maps. Assuming that's what you're looking for, is battle maps and or dungeon maps. Battle maps, I guess something like Sheipeku or anything that works with like a Roll20 if you're doing that sort of tabletop. I don't know. I don't play that often with a battle map too much, or I don't run with one too much. I feel like, and I think that kind of came down to that's transition between 4E and 5E for me. And in addition to that, then I started playing more online games because of things like the lockdown, and then started playing or running things a lot more smaller games like one-on-one games or games with only like 2 players in it, and that's handled very, very easily by theater of the mind rather than spending 10 minutes to map out something in front and lay out a map for everybody, and then yeah, most battles are really short when you use something like that because you can't have a lot of big bad stuff when you only have like 1 or 2 players. So combats tend to go by pretty quick, which I know might sound weird to some of you who have probably been in multiple 45-minute plus combats. Be like, combat can be quick? Sometimes, yeah. Definitely when the scale goes down. So lower levels and lower player counts make battles go by real quick. Usually it's only a couple of exchanges, and then it's either somebody's dead or somebody's running away. They try to have monsters run away a lot. And so, yeah, that's good maps. World maps, I mean, across the internet, or if you want to make your own, obviously I use HexML for my hex maps, but there's lots of stuff out there. World Info, what's the Wonder Draft? Is it the other one? The one that lets you make maps? I can't remember off the top of my head. There's lots of things to go. There's lots of free and then paid map making stuff if you want to make maps. Can multi-class warlocks use warlock slots for non-warlock spells? Yeah, there's still spell slots. It depends on how you get access to non-warlock spells, but yeah, generally your spell slot pool is what it is. Like, I know the ranger that I'm playing right now has the runecrafter, and they get spells from that. So anything that you get those spells, they're like ancestry or background cause, where you get like you can cast this spell for free once a day. That also means that you always have access to that spell, and you can use your spell slots to cast that. Help! How do I prep a one-shot for tomorrow? Go buy a pre-made one-shot. Read it. Try to look for something that's like a 5-room dungeon. I like 1-page dungeon, something that's quick, simple. Something like that. You're looking for things that have like 5 rooms in it, 5 chambers, 5 encounters, something that's not going to bleed over into 2 sessions, so you probably don't want too many more than, you know, 4 or 5 encounters or scenes, big scenes that are in it, and do that and swap that over. There's lots of those on free. I like there's a one-page dungeon contest that they do annually, and they put up all that stuff up there for you to look at, and there are lists like on Reddit of what people think the best of those are, and so you can kind of pull from the cream of the crop and do a few. I know that I have pulled a few for my look it over here because I know that I pulled it out just the other day. When I'm looking for something that's like go in my parachute file, so I just pulled my parachute file out. These little guys are great. So that's all I need. I just stick it in the back of my DM binder and be like, oh, my players decided to go do something real weird that I didn't have anything planned for. So here are a couple different adventures that kind of match with the area that they're in. So in this case, everything's very swamp or wetlands adjacent because that's sort of the area that they were in. And yeah, these are super simple. So it's kind of mixed. So just kind of go over the ones that I do have that were back here. Bad Frog Bargain by Nate Treem. It's a very interesting one. This one's got a very much like it's a fairy deal. It's very fairy tale. It deals in a little village, and you deal with the effects. There's like mutation effects. There's a bunch of like frog people in it. It's very fun. This one's the Burial Mound of Gilead Wolf Clan one-page dungeon by Josh Burnett. BernieTheFlump.blogspot.com. And this one's very simple, like, oh, old Thule tells you, there's a guy in a tavern who basically tells you what's going on about this adventure site. You can go run to the well on the hill, go down it. There's some goblins and other stuff inside. There's some undead things to fight and do and get the old thing. And you can find out what everything's happening in the burial mound of Gilead Wolf Clan. And the last one I have is The Place in the Bog. A short swamp adventure by School Fungus on Twitter, I'm guessing. And these have spudlings, so they're a little bit like Vegapygmies. You know, with the serial number, debranded Vegapygmies, the spudlings. And it gives you a little thing down there. And so it's just like their little hideout. So those are really useful. I find those really useful to just kind of have in your back pocket in case players decide to go do something weird and something you didn't have planned for. You can just kind of toss those in. And the last one that we'll do. Hi, I'm a new DM. Any tips? Sure. Don't think about it too much. Especially if you don't have any friends that any of your friends, the people you're going to run for, haven't played D&D. Don't worry about it that much. Just try to have some fun with your friends. The whole point is that try to make it less stressful, as easy as it is to get into the game, and the more fun people have, and less you're worried about it, the more likely they are to turn one session into 100 sessions. So make it fun, make it simple. Try not to do permanent things right off the bat. Try to run like a one-shot or two-shot or something like that. Be like so that way nobody's locked into anything. Nobody has to worry about, oh, I made this decision for my character or for my world or whatever. Before I knew how to be a dungeon master, and now I'm locked into it for a 2-year campaign or something like that. Don't worry about that. Just run a bunch of like one-shots and two-shots. Quick tasks, do them again and again and again. Let the new players get your players used to making characters, which is really good for that. It gives you a lot of practice of high reps of just doing very simple stuff, just running adventures, running sessions, improvising, doing that stuff again and again and again. You're gonna fail a bunch. It's fine. You'll probably need to retcon some stuff. You have to be like, oh, I forgot about this thing. Let's take a step back and change it. Or maybe you change it on the fly to accommodate. That stuff happens. It still happens, and happens with me all the time. There's stuff that I forget, and I have to go back and retcon or change or just roll with the punches if I can. And then I have to make sort of like a judgment call on an area, and that's just something that kind of comes with experience. So unfortunately, there's not a quick way to get there. But yeah, those are sort of what I would say, major, at least my major, super newbie answers for that. Let's get this out of the way. Hello? Oh, there we go. All right. So we said we were in this one. So we're rolling d10s now. Can you cast Fireball? Of course, you can always cast Fireball if you've got the slots. And you know the spell. It'll be just probably easier if I just keep hitting this until I hit one. And then I'll worry about them. Okay, so that was 7. And on number 7, ooh, we got another natural 20. So I know right off the top that that's going to be a hazard. And so that was number 7, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Come on. How's that? Oh, is it doing that thing? Yeah. This does this sometimes. Let's see if I can get it. When the map gets this big, sometimes it kind of freezes up a little bit. Which looks like might be what's happening here. So, sometimes a few too many things kind of go on. So let's save. I'm gonna save this, and then we're gonna reopen it. Yeah. I know. All right, I'm gonna just throw it on my face because I go get that file and change it up. Because it always downloads as a zip archive, even though it's an HTML file, so it's not really that big of a file to begin with. I think it's a little weird that it does that. I wish it didn't. Let's go ahead and extract all. Yeah, we're gonna extract it right there. That's fine. That way I can reopen this. So this happens every once in a while when we start working. It wasn't a thing that used to happen, but now it kind of happens once I deal with these like super big hex maps. But sometimes if I start doing some other stuff, it will. The stamp in particular likes to not work. And I did run into a case the other day when I was working on this where I lost a bunch of hexes of progress because I hadn't saved in a while. Always back up. Always save. Really probably should do it every time that I finish a hex. Over here. 1, 2, so we did 7, and we need this is going to be a hazard. So we're going to go ahead and throw the hazard in there. Boom. All right. So that is working. Oh, right. I should flip back over because so that way you guys can see what I'm looking at. It's a crit. How much damage is it? It's going to be max damage, maximum damage, all the damage, every last bit. My players aren't getting out alive. So what's our hazard going to be? Let's hop back over here. So we're back down. We didn't even need to go anywhere. We'll roll a 2. Ooh, a hunter pit or snare trap. Interesting. Okay. So this is going to be we got a trap laying in wait for you. Though I think this really I should probably expand this to just be trap. Yeah, I'm gonna make a little edit here. Trap. Hunter pit. Snare. Etc. There we go. Just microphone's in the way. You can see the key that I'm trying to hit. There we go. Alright, so we know this is a trap, so we're leaving this something in the way for us. Who's leaving a trap for us? Who's gonna Admiral Akbar us? Up. 6. That means it's gonna be something weird. 10. Oh, we got Celestials again. Okay. Well, we got another Celestial hazard. This time in the water, which is very interesting. I don't think we have a lot of Celestials that hang out in the water, do we? So we're going to go to Celestials. Yeah. Quaddle, because there's a lot of flying stuff. Not a ton of water stuff. So here's what we're going to do. We can always just kind of throw Celestial on something that's kind of like a template. So maybe instead of doing the creature type, we're going to do the native environments. We're going to do aquatic plus Arctic. So we'll see if anything kind of comes up in there. Assassinos. Why would an assassin come up here? I mean, I guess there could be assassins in the Arctic, but why? Why would they be in there? Why are 8 assassins just chilling in Antarctica? I mean, we could come up with a reason for that, but that's not really a trap. Storm giants, yeah. Silver dragons. Ooh, an aboleth's a good one. I do love an aboleth. I do love an aboleth. Maybe some sort of like celestial aboleth. That'd be pretty dope. Some holy aboleth. That could be really cool. Yeah, I like that. And aboleths are very trap focused already. They're kind of like green dragons in that way, is that they play smart, not hard. They're evil to smart, not hard. So yeah, we're gonna go with the celestial aboleth, and we got our APLs right. Celestial aboleth. So something that's hanging out in the water, that's drawing people into it. Ooh, like a siren's call. This I like. This I like. Yeah, so maybe we'll lose the. Maybe the aboleth was just a stepping stone to get us where we want to. So it's maybe some sort of celestial siren skull. Yeah, this is gonna be like drowning people. I don't need to put in water. That's where people drown. We know that they're going into the water and they're just drowning. So it's sort of a nasty siren's call that sort of pulls people in and to drown themselves. Very much, like sirens do. So this is gonna be some sort of like angelic, yeah, angelic voice. Siren angelic voice. Calling. Oop, hit this. Should we do only humanoids? It does seem like a humanoid adjacent thing. Like maybe it has to be something, a language. Drowning. So I think this, so that way it doesn't just work on like animals. They have to at least understand a language, even if they don't speak it. And it kind of draws them in, drowns them, and maybe it hits them with some radiant energy. When they get down there, maybe it compels them. Maybe we'll add that in addition to the drowning aspect. Maybe they can take radiant damage because I also don't want them to be like, oh, if they just have a crappy crappy save against charms, they're just gonna die because they're just gonna drown. So maybe it'll do some radiant damage or something as they get down there, once they get into the water, and that'll give them the opportunity, and that damage would prompt them to be able to try to save again, so it can give them more likelihoods. When they only need to save the once, give them more likelihoods to save. And I'm not a huge fan of D&D 5e's. Once you save from this thing that a monster has, you're immune to it for 24 hours. That does kind of suck. Like something that's got like a cause fear effect or stuff. I know that they did that to sort of mitigate what happens when players keep failing those things. But that stuff just kind of happens anyways if you never save against it. So, plus we have spells to get around stuff like that. Like, that can help you deal with things where you can't be charmed and stuff like that. Enough to make it shut it seems. Waiting for the party, or are they just stupid? Yeah. Good. Uh, 50% one side, 50% the other side, maybe. Depends. All right, so that was our hazard. Let's keep moving forward. I like that. I did the thing that I said I wasn't going to do, which was basically do the hexes as we come across them. My bad. We're just trying to lay them out. Then we'll go back and do them. That used to be the way I do it, so I'm trying to change the way I do it because I think it's faster to just lay out all the hexes beforehand, all the stamps, and then come back and do the nodes. 4. Like I said, I'm going to skip the land for now, and I'll swing back and do it. with a different die size. Okay. This should be what we expect. We should not expect to see a lot. There we go. So 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 and 7, which is a meeting place. Is that right? Yes. Alright. So I remembered it. Meeting place for 9, 10, 11. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Bonk. So there's a little meeting place way the heck down here. So, to be expected, we should not have a lot of points of interest in the middle of the water. Especially in the Arctic. It's not going to be a super fun adventuring place to be with. It doesn't really make sense for a lot of stuff to be there, and the stuff that should be there should be aquatic in nature. So, but here's a secret. Because we're working at a higher map scale, we're still working at the region map scale, we can actually put land. We can actually put land stuff. So if I wanted to make this a meeting place for, say, hill folk, so like actual people, humanoids, you'd be like, well, that's weird. It's in the middle of a water hex. It's like, but at scale, it's water hex. But that does mean that there might be a smaller island of land or something else that's in there, and I can ensure that that happens once we get down to a scale. But we know that there's not a landmass that's like 60 miles across, 60 miles in diameter. So there's a smaller landmass in here potentially. I'll just do that. Oh, that's not the right thing. I have that saved. I'm going to go ahead and save it. That way I can just post it in next time. And this is going to be a meeting place. Again, I'm doing the thing I said I wasn't going to do. Go away! Everybody go away! Scatter! Run! Alright. Looking for ones in all the wrong places. Alright, that's 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We did that. Let's roll another 6. And we didn't roll any other points of interest for that. Let's do our 2 actual land masses that we have that are kind of islands that are hanging out here in the middle of this. It was essentially kind of a glacier, or a big ice plain, like glass ice. It was going to be a 1. Neither of them are a 1. So that's it. So there's only the 2 points of interest in this big area. That happens sometimes. It's not bad. It's just what it is. Like I said, I think you can expect in most campaigns that you're not going to spend a lot of time in the Arctic, unless you really want to make I could take like a 10 towns kind of adventure and dump it down into something like this. If I wanted to take a published module and drop it into this world, I could do that. I'd have to scratch off all the serial numbers and change the names of things. But I could very much do that and then plug and play something like that. So giving yourself the ability, with even in your custom worlds, to be able to take published stuff and drop it in. You just kind of have to change the names on some things. Like you could put the 10 towns anywhere in here, and the 10 towns is a lower adventure anyway, so it could be wherever. Since everything's covered in ice and snow, it makes sense to drop it in this area of the world, even though that's magically kind of covered with ice and snow. Yeah, same thing. Alright, so we have a meeting place. Let's do our meeting place. Haha! Alright, got it. Which was 7. Went right past it. Alright, so 7. We've got a meeting place. Let's roll a d6. See if we come up with something interesting. If not, we'll figure it out. It's very iterative, so as we go along. Sanctuary, free space, or greens? I'm probably going to go ahead and put green space not in there. It's hard to say sanctuary. Well, let's rather than rolling on it, let's see what's kind of our theme. Okay, so we're talking humanoids. 5. What is 5? Giants. Gigantes. Alright, so this is going to be a giant meeting place. That's cool. We got anything that's, are they meeting just with giants? This is an oracle question. No. Okay, so they're meeting something else. This is a meeting place between giants and, and 14, which is not, it's whatever's after humanoids, right? Between giants and an ooze. Ooze is always one of the weird ones to kind of run in here, especially when you're talking about a meeting place for, ooze is so weird. And oozes we don't have a ton of either, which is one of the problems. There are a lot of creature types that we just don't have a lot of in D&D, which is not helpful. Like Celestials, we only have a handful. We have also 8. So you can definitely do an Oblex. Makes sense. Oblex is one of the few that actually have some sense of intelligence, or at least can kind of masquerade as people. I just hate going back to that well again and again and again and again. I knew thinking like we could do something cool here. Like maybe this is not. It's very easy to be like giants and oozes in opposition to each other, but maybe they don't. Maybe they have some sort of other relationship we can kind of look at. So let's look back at our house. So we know that. Wait, take me down there. Take me to 7, please. So multiple factions are meeting here, looking nearby hexes for ideas. How are relationships? Yeah, so we could say the relationship's bad, but it could be good too. We'd roll a 2d6 like reaction. How about that? Okay, 4's bad, so it's not good. It's not like attack on sight, but it's not good. It's not good. Okay, so this could be like maybe a negotiations breaking down kind of thing. Maybe these are forces that kind of skirmish against each other now and again. Alright, GMs and oozes. So it's a meeting place for them. So it's sort of a we did have sanctuary. If we want to go with sanctuary free space. Yeah, maybe this is like a DMZ kind of area. Yeah, so this is going to be this is an area where the giants and oozes, they've got some sort of beef that's going on. So if this is an Oblex, maybe it steals from the giants and stuff like that. We do know that we have the celestial siren ancient thing that's kind of going up there, so it would make sense if we drop the angel in here, which we could do if I wanted to. I can always go back and change it if I want to. But I do kind of like what we've got going on here. What's it? This is like our woolly rhinos, right? Yes. So yeah, the giants hunt the woolly rhinos. That makes sense. And these guys, so this is the things. The ooze may be related to the celestial singing voice. We don't know. With mind control, that does fit in with Oblex kind of stuff, adjacent kind of things. So we can kind of mix those together. So again, I don't need to fully flesh this out. So that gives me an idea that's a very interesting thing to work with and be like, what was their problem? Is this, let me say the meeting place, I'm going to move this up on the line. DnD/Sanctuary. Uses, we're going to say antagonistic. Maybe feuding would be better. So this is sort of like an area they've set around being like, okay, you cannot attack people who are in this area. Like outside of this feud may be raging on, they might come across each other if they're having disagreements. But in this specific area, when we get in this specific area, violence is prohibited. And it's sort of like, if violence happens in this area, it's going to turn into like a full-scale war rather than just kind of like raiding or whatever's happening back and forth, sort of these little skirmishes or disagreements. It's going to if somebody breaches that sanctuary and attacks somebody else there, it turns into a real big nasty mess. I like it. We'll go on with that. Let's move on to our next hex. So that one goes by real quick because we didn't have a lot of things in it. A lot of these down here will go by very quickly. So we've got some highland areas that's coming up too. But we're a couple hours in the stream, so and I'd like to do maybe that highland hex. I kind of like that because we've just been doing plains, and most of everything that I've been working on up until this point across the bottom has just kind of been open plains. So it would be nice to maybe not do that. And then I was looking things to. I can't remember if I was putting something to isolated home system. I was. Okay. I'm just gonna fix. We're just gonna add a little bit more onto our little road here. Up, up. Okay. Why are you doing this? All right. The road system thing again. It's not perfect. It's not. It has a lot of issues. Still like it, but I may go back and clean up these roads. I did the rivers on another map, and it took such a long time. It was very, very tedious. So I'm definitely not doing that right now. And I may just, like I said, I may just delete the roads in general. What was this thing? Oh no. Oh no. I've done the thing I was trying not to do. I need the right icon. What is this in here again? Oh, Rider Impact Raider thing, yeah. Yeah, I don't think there's going to be a road going to that. Alright, so, next hex. Sally Forth. Don't call me Sally. Alright, sixes. Right out the gate. Something immediately. 17. What's 17? Ooh, Wandering Monsters. Up front. Alright, so we got some Wandering Monsters right off the bat. That's always fun. Always fun for a good Wandering Monster. We can get rid of this. Just gonna keep moving, keep moving. We'll skip over the water. We'll come back and do that. Alright. The 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And what are we laying down? Another natural 20. We're rolling hot today. I wish I was seeing these natural 20s for something that was other than just making out hex maps, but that's how it goes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Boop. And let's do one for a D10. For our water hex, I'm sure it will not come up. It does not. We'll keep moving forward. A lot of sixes. Yep. 26s and then one. Mark of the Beast, number 1. 666, number 1. 14, conflict area. Interesting. So we take this one. Looks like conflict area. 4. Okay. Right next to our Wandering Monsters. Are they related? Maybe, maybe not. Keep moving forward. Up, immediately into something else. 5. Which is crossing, right? Yes. Boop. Oh, whoop. That was very silly. That was very silly of me. So, obviously those go there. I'm not in the right spot. Or, sorry, it was 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom. And the, actually grab this and move this, I believe. And this one, I can pull it off the map to delete it, but I'm just going to do it here. Just make it a little bit cleaner. I want to accidentally go in on a different hex while I'm trying to move it around. Alright. So, now that I am paying attention to what I'm doing, helpful. Alright. Keep moving, keep moving. Here we go, here we go. Alright. Just need a 1. Just need a 1. Give me a 1. Just need a 1. Please give me a 1. There we go. Alright, so 8. And what are we dropping in? We're dropping in a 12. Ooh, roll twice and combine results. One of the new ones I've added. Alright, so now I'm going to roll twice. 16 to 10. Natural resource and a treasure rumor. Oh, so now it's a rumor of the resource. That might be cool. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead. That's not what I'm trying to click on. Get out of here. I don't think I need this doc that open at all. All right, so this is where I just take 2 stamps from one there. So we got a 16 and a 10, which is the most important. I think natural resources is the most. Well, because natural resources they could stumble across anyways. And this was number 8, right? Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we want our rumor, and what are we using for rumor again? The info? Rumor. Staring at the page. Why am I not seeing it? Rumor. Having a moment. Why can I not see this? It was 10, it was 16. Treasure rumor. There we go. I'm looking for rumor, not treasure. Boop. Alright, so this is something that can be, so these can be related, or if not, they just happen at the same place. So, what could it be? We're not going to worry about that right now. Oh, and put the thing in the right spot. Me. You gotta pay attention. Pay attention, man. Why are you letting me make these mistakes? You guys gotta pay attention. You guys gotta help me out. You got it. Alright, we got 7 left. And 3. It could happen. We can make it all the way. We don't. As soon as I start bringing it up, we might make it through. We don't. We do not. No trespassing here. Yeah, perfect. Boop. And this was how many squares? There. There we go. And then we just have to do one final roll. We'll just re-roll these guys. In case we hit it. We do not. Okay, so that's the end. So this one actually had quite a few points of interest in it compared to some of the others we had. And we got a little bit more going on. Alright, so we got a wandering monster. So nowhere in the wild, so the likelihood that these are going to be beasts pretty high. We'll just roll off of it anyways. Kind of wandering monsters we're talking about. Okay. Alright, that's definitely beasts. Rolled right in the middle. So let's take a look in the book. Why are you putting me off? Yeah. Oop. So you can always close this if I need to. We're looking for wandering monsters. Wandering monsters. Number 17, there we go. Hey, what they be doing? They are establishing a lair. Now, we do have the problem that we always have, is that we have beasts, and there's a lot of nothing going on with beasts. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some beasts and we're going to zhuzh it up. So we've got 11. We'll just roll d12. 8. 6, 7. Yep, that's fine. 2, 3, 4. Velociraptors. Lots of raptors. Just a buttload of raptors. Nothing but raptors. How many raptors can we have? Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! It's still going. This is when you go D&D, you know, maybe not super broken. Alright, that's... What if we... Let's drop this down a little bit. Oh no, it's still trivial. Oh, thank God, okay. So to make this fight worth fighting, they need to at least fight 152 velociraptors, starting for an 11th level party. So we're probably not going to do that for obvious reasons. So we are going to do sort of ice raptors, I think. It's going to go off of that. So some sort of like ice raptors. So rather than do the creature type, let's just do the Arctic from there. So we got a few different things that are kind of going on here. So let's do something that's kind of in the area. Ooh, what are those creatures that I just used? That was some sessions ago. Oh, they're the big chicken guys that like breathe fire. Ah, what were those creatures called? Maybe I'll just look for it. Let's say D big lizard breathe fire. No, it's not a fire lizard. No, it's bringing up something. It's not bringing up what it was going. God, what were those things called? It could be something like those. Those are a little bit, but those have the same problem. That I think they're like CR quarter two. But they do have something at least different kind of going on. Yeah, so I think the thing that kind of jumps to me is I'm going to do like a Rimraz kind of thing. So we're just going to put that in here. We're going to put I probably not spell that right. I'll just put this here. And we'll say skinned rather than coated. Now, like we did with the woolly rhinos, these are going to be woolly raptors. Velociraptor pack, so they got that going on. So they're going to have that Rimraz skin on them, which I know that I probably misspelled. I always do. There we go. Oh, but you know Rimraz, how to spell it. Okay, thanks, spell check. You know that. So the Rimraz is one of the iconic Arctic kind of cold weather tundra creatures. Uh, they're basically superheated and they steam as they go through the snow. They're not fun to run into most of the time. They're real nasty. They don't get a lot of play though because they are very specifically kind of cold weather things. So they only kind of show up in snowy areas. So unless you play a game in which there's quite a bit of snow, you're probably not going to use Rimrazes very often. So they're establishing a layer in this area. Okay, so this is going to be establishing sort of like their territory. I could put always that there's like an ice cave or some other sort of, maybe there's a ice chasm or something they can get into that protects them. Since we don't have like big hills or woodlands or anything as shelter, so it's kind of hard to say it's layer. But they could have some sort of chasm or ice cave that lets them get down in, so we can do a dungeon if we want to do a dungeon. But these are supposed to be a wandering monster. It's just a real nasty wandering monster encounter. So if you were, a 12th level party rolling through here, and there's 150, and we're not going to do that much. We're definitely going to, like, when I make the Raptors, I will beef them up and use probably closer to the Rimraz stats, and mix those with some of the Raptor abilities to kind of give these fire raptors or steam raptors, woolly raptors, whatever I'm going to end up calling them. But they are just like basic beast animals, so there's nothing else interesting going on with them, unfortunately. At least at base level. Now, we can always change that and do something later, but for now, there's nothing interesting going on with them. We don't need to fully flesh it out because we're not running people through it. So it's not coming up, so we're not going to do it. Alright, so let's do a d6 here. Where are we going for? We got another hazard. Oh, it's another trap. We want to do another trap. We just did a trap. Now, we're never beholden to the rolls. So the rolls are just a thing that helps us. They help us percolate, generate ideas, and kind of give us a jumping off point so we're not just kind of staring at a blank page trying to figure out what to put there when something like a hazard comes up. So it could be a trap. So let's do this. I'm gonna re-roll these. Who might be laying this trap? Okay, that'd be a construct trap. Ooh. Maybe it's like a living hunting trap? Ooh, that'd be interesting. I'm thinking like a bear trap, but what if it's like sentient and multiple of them? Ooh, maybe it's like a construct like hunter trapper who's trapping the area. I like that. Let's go with that. And obviously could be hunting these woolly raptors that are out there. Uh, hmm. So they're just leaving traps around the area, and obviously they're going to be pretty powerful because we're talking about an APL average party level 11 to 16, so that third tier of adventure. So this is going to be pretty beefy. What do we even have in constructs that are in that area? Because there's not going to be a ton, I don't think. We do that. So we're going to get rid of the constructs that don't usually have environments. That makes sense. Shield Guardians. All right. But we do have some things like the Hellfire engine. That'd be an interesting one. Like there's just a big machine that's going around like throwing out traps and stuff and pulling stuff up. There's of course the Retriever, though I think I have a Retriever that I used a few hexes ago when I had this sort of thing kind of come up. So we could have some golems down there. That'd be pretty interesting. And a little too low level to do something like a Merit. I don't know the pronunciation on that. Marut, which is sort of our high level construct. I don't want to be messing with those in general. They nasty. Do some drones, animated armors, yeah. Got a helmed forward. Most of the constructs are really low level. So we have quite a few, but so many of them are very low level. But it would be fun to make like a living trap that's like a swarm of living traps that kind of works like a flying sword animated object kind of thing. That could be fun. Wanted to swing around and do that. I reserve the right to change it later, but we've already got a herd animal, like a pack of things that are happening here. So I kind of want to do something that's a little bit more solo. But this Oaken Vulture is really cool. This could be a cool one. How many of these do I need to? All right, so not too many to get like just into encounters. Then we are on the low side, so we went all the way up to 16. How many Oaken Vultures are we talking about? I mean, quite a few. Oh, yeah. So, too many. Or we can go up to 32. So if we wanted to roll 48, which would get us, like 18. What would 18 put us at? A moderate encounter. That's probably going to get real high, real deadly. See if it gets real deadly for a low-level party. When you're operating within the range, you can still make stuff really, really nasty really quick. But they are a lower level CR, so they're not going to have as many attacks. But they are going to have a lot. So I don't know what their 2 hit points. So we can do something like that. So I do like this. We've got stuff that's in here. I could make a Hellfire engine. That could be interesting. Or a Cadaver Collector. Ooh, a Cadaver Collector would be cool. But when they find like the trapped woolly raptors, they like rip them out of the trap and like stick them on themselves. Because the Cadaver Collector has like these giant spikes sticking off, and they pick up cadavers on and stick them on. So that could be a really cool one. So let's go with that. I'm just going to leave it as a question mark right now. But that gives us this ability that, like, cool stuff is... There's always just weird stuff that's happening in this world. That's one of the things that I like about living in this world. It's like, there's just a weird thing here. It's like, if you investigate it, you can learn as to, like, why is the construct doing it? Who created the construct? Or who gave it these orders to do this? Who's benefiting off of it? Is anybody? You know, all any of this stuff. So you can add all that stuff in and do it as well. Alright, so we have our conflict area. Conflict area, this is one of the things that I think this is the one that I may struggle with the most in my stocking information. First, because they take kind of a long time to do. because you immediately have to make at least 2 factions that are doing it, and you have to kind of know about like what's the status of the fight. So you'll see. We'll get in there. Conflict area. So we'll deal with the sources here a little bit. Actually, yeah, let's do the sources. And how many sources are there? There's like 6, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, we'll just roll a d6. A 4. So these are people fighting over religion. It happens. So we'll just put cause, religion. So this is going to be interesting. So this conflict area kind of assumes that it's generally... This is one of the things that gets weird in, is because if I don't know what the creatures are beforehand, so now what if I end up doing a whole bunch of like beasts or monstrosities or unthinking things, you'll be like, how could they possibly be fighting about religion? Like that doesn't make any sense. So again, the roles are here to help us, not to hinder us, but do make some attempt to kind of be like, well, could I come up with a reason? Like I could come up with something like, well, is this like an elephant's graveyard sort of situation, and they're fighting over sort of this area that does seem to have like some importance to these creatures. They have some form of ritual or something of that nature, even if it's really, really, really primitive. So, but the fight's not about like food or something like that or territory necessarily. I mean, I guess that is a fight about territory. But maybe not. I mean, let's find out. So we're gonna keep rolling. All right, so that's our conflict source. And what's kind of going on here? 1d4. 1. Oh, pre-battle. And we need a location, which is also a d4. And I feel like maybe I need to build it out a little bit more or restructure it. I'm not sure what to do with this to kind of get it around to make it a little bit more useful, because I think it's the one that's probably the least useful to me. Because I do a lot of rolls, and then I feel like I still don't always have a good grasp on what it is by the end. And that's not necessarily bad, but I feel like I should have more. Some sort of earthworks or fortification. So depending on what we get, that will make sense or maybe not. So it could be like some sort of fort that's out here, a camp, etc. Something that they've built in some earthworks. Like a hill fort kind of thing, or it could just be a wall they've made. Like a long segment of wall, like a Hadrian's Wall or Great Wall kind of situation, but obviously it's not big enough that it expands across the whole thing, but in a certain area it does block off things. Because remember that each of these hexes is like 60 miles wide, so that's... I don't know what the length of Hadrian's Wall is. I'm pretty sure it's... Or the other wall. That's not Hadrian's Wall. What's the other wall called? Belimes? I don't remember. Off the top of my head. But they're not particularly long. But they are built in such a way that they span the most of the area from coast to coast there. That's way off topic. We don't even know about that. We need to know who's in this fight, though. So let's figure that out. 619? Ooh. All right, so we definitely have some people who can talk about some things. Let me... All right, so that's definitely a Fiend. So Fiend's on one side. And 12, which may be dragons, right? Elementals. Okay, Fiends and Elementals. Perfect. Conflict pre-battle. And one of the ways when I think about, and maybe it helps to contextualize this, like how it plays out in my mind. When I think about this conflict area and I think about how they do it, my mind is drawn to the seed that I most associate, the context I most associate it with, is playing a game like Witcher 3 comes to mind, where there is an army camp that you go visit and you talk to NPCs and you get quests from. Like there is a place where you can just go and have this encamped out there because there is a war that's going on in the middle of that game. And so you come across battlefields and you come across uh, big army camps with a camped army who are preparing for their next battle. And so that's where my mind kind of immediately goes to when I roll things for like conflict areas. So it is where it is sort of potentially like a pitched battle. Like this is supposed to be kind of a larger engagement between fiends and elementals, so they could potentially be fighting over some religious things or things that are religious in nature, even if they're not tied to maybe dogma. So interesting. All right. Is there anything else we need from this? Okay. Where's the thing at? Meeting place is like a construction. Conflict area, 14. Yeah, we know it's pre-battle. I also like. You're rich. I also like old conflicts, so those are like old battlegrounds and things like that you come across. And sometimes they're haunted, and sometimes they have stuff that's worth things in there, and sometimes they don't. They're just kind of a thing that you look at. So if there's no haunt and no salvage, you might be going there to learn something, or maybe you're looking for a specific Speak with Dead if you need somebody. So they're good in other ways to have these old battlefields and be like, which is very, very much like the newer D&D movie, where they're like, oh, well, we got to go to the battleground site where all the guys died, and we could talk to the different people and find out where the, uh, whatever it is, like the circlet ended up when they're looking for that stuff. So it is very useful to just have a place where there's dead people in your world and be like, hey, if you want to know about stuff from this particular time period, that happened around this event, you could just speak with Dead. If you don't have somebody in the party who can cast Speak with Dead, you then that becomes another hurdle, another step in the adventure. Be like, okay, you need to go track down somebody or get a scroll of it, or multiple scrolls. In the case of the D&D movie, it probably would have been helpful to have more scrolls of it because they ran out of them, ran out of charges. All right, so that's basic. We don't really need to flesh it out anymore. We just know that there is some sort of fortification, either built by the fiends or the elementals. It could be cool if it's like an elemental fort. And I think the natural inclination would be to go like an ice fort. I was like, man, it might be fun to do like a stone, like a rock fort that's like just Avatar Earthbender style, just like busted out of the ground and formed that way. Just to make it a little bit different, make it pop against the otherwise pretty much just pristine white tableau vista. Everything you look at is going to be just that awful, just nothing but white in every direction. So if you have something that juts out that's like gray stone or brown earth or something like that, that really kind of contrasts with the otherwise the vista that you're looking at, the skybox will be really nice. So crossing, I don't know why we're on that hinge. That's just a thing that can come up and useful. Sometimes it's nice to lean into the tropes, and sometimes it's nice to kind of break the tropes. So obviously, when you're with elementals in the Arctic, you're like, oh well, obviously, some sort of ice elementals, or water elementals, or wind elementals, and you'd be like, well, what if it was an earth elemental instead? Because there's still land there, but that's not the thing that we usually associate with it. Maybe they could roll themselves up into giant snowballs and hit people. It can be very silly if I wanted it to be silly. Very entertaining. Alright, 1d4 for our type of crossing. So this also will have a village attached to it. A guide, a wayfinding mark, or fairy. I just did a fairy, though. Actually, I did a fairy and a tunnel. They were both. So it could be a guide or a wayfinding mark. A wayfinding mark kind of makes sense, because there's not a lot going on in this hex in general. And because there's not a lot that's going on in this hex, it makes me think, well, what if somebody came into this area, they might need to come across something that like points them in a way to do something, a way to go somewhere. So maybe a wayfinding mark. So I think either a guide or a wayfinding mark. Let's roll d6. I'm a little weighted towards guide because I don't think we have a guide yet. So I'm kind of a little weight towards guides. All right, I've got a guide anyways. Alright, so we're going to say that like this is so that's the crossing. So sometimes the crossings are like bridges, they're places where you have to portage, there are tunnels, there are ford or a pass through rough terrain. And sometimes it's like, hey, here there is a person, legitimately a person here who knows the area really well, and you're adventurers and you're coming in here and you're just like, we don't know where stuff is. You hire the guide, and the guide's like, I can take you where you need to go, and then that reduces like your rations, your exposure to the cold weather, the likelihood that you're going to run into random encounters because they're knowledgeable, sort of like going around the terrain and doing that stuff. Is this for my groups campaign or for a solo campaign? That and what documents are you using to roll everything? Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for dropping in, Bearbeard. This is it's not for my current campaign that I'm running. It's the same world, so that's what I'm doing, but it's in a different part of the world. So we're in our sort of middle continent. So this is taking place, what, thousands of miles away? It's in the same world, and geographically, it's in a kind of similar location in context of the whole world, but not anywhere close to what my players are going to be dealing with. So the answer is yes or no. It could be for a future campaign if I decide to run solo. I haven't run anything solo in this world, but I could. I just haven't done it before. We could jump in and try to do that. That could be interesting. That's a good idea. Hmm. That would help me develop some things. But yeah, for right now, it's just kind of world building for world building's sake. So, as I said before in the when we were doing the stream and setting stuff up, if you are a new dungeon master or game master or want to get into this, what I'm doing right here, not particularly useful for running games. In the long run, yes. In the short run, like I got to prep a game for tomorrow, no. I got to prep a new campaign, maybe a little bit, depending on your campaign. But even at this, we're working at such a high scale that the likelihood that something like this, either one of these individual hexes would come up in your campaign is extremely rare. This is me just sort of filling out the world. And what documents am I using to roll everything? These are all sort of my own documents. I've shared some of the stuff before. For some of these things, some of these are in my Dungeon Master's binder, but it's just rules that I use. It's based off of a few different things. There's Welsh Piper's rules, so part of it's pulled from there and then twisted and made my own in a lot of different ways. So if you're looking for something that's kind of similar to this that you want to check out for yourself, I would say check out the Welsh Piper. He has some old hex mapping. I think there's like 4 different blogs that he kind of goes over it from many, many years ago. And that kind of gives you a good idea of how I got to this point and why I'm running here. But this is all kind of homebrewed and made my own, kind of pulled from different sources and added from my own, learning from running different games and different sources, different RPGs, all sorts of stuff. So it all kind of mixed in together. So hopefully that answered your question. Hopefully. So this was a crossing. If you know this, we got our APL 11 through 16 for our average party level. And we want this crossing is going to be a guide. I'm going to say guide station. And it's going to have, we really don't need anything else that's kind of attached to this, but we do need to know population. Alright, well, I can't use either of those. So we'll roll again. So we've got a village here that's got about 405 people in it. Not a ton of people. But there is this little beacon of people that are hanging out here. So usually we kind of, at least on my side, I kind of assume these are humanoids, but that might not be the case. They could be giants, they could be a lot of different things. Welsh, yeah, Welsh Piper. Take the C out of it, yes. But yeah, a Piper from Wales. So yeah, and I'll probably leave this. Usually I assume that these are humanoid, but I never necessarily write it down because if I need to say giants to be there, I can make it giants. If I want it to be fiends, I can make it fiends or fiends that are lording over humans, but aren't necessarily bad guys, as in this is a monster layer or a BBEG kind of style. I think maybe a little bit more neutral, but it could become an adventure. It just kind of I like to leave things a little bit open-ended on that in that way, so that way I can react to whatever the players start doing once they get there. So here's what I know is that it's a guide station, so this will take them somewhere. So can't really go west, so we don't really have a road to connect here. I mean, I guess we could take a road from here, way over here, and we can move it all the way around this water, all the way back to here, but we don't know what is in these two hexes yet. And we won't per minute. We're definitely not finding that out today. We still have quite a few to go down here before we start on that second row. So yes, this is a very slow and a very tedious process. I find it relaxing, so it's something I just do to kind of relax and hang out and do a little world building just to add some fun stuff in, and then just doing this kind of stuff also just percolates my brain for coming up with the adventures and stuff that when I have a good idea and I'm like, oh, I should throw that into the game I'm actually running right now. So it is in its own way sort of like an idea springboard. It just kind of gets the creative juices going and running. Because if you come across a good idea, you shouldn't save that good idea. You should use it and kind of throw it in your game immediately. Now, a lot of this stuff is kind of polar focused. I'm not throwing some of it is, but I have done some of these and been like, oh, I could do something with like a young dragon coterie. That would be interesting. I wanted to go that route. So, and then our last one down here. Remember, this is a double, so this is a natural resource plus treasure room. Now the question is that we need to probably, the one thing we do need to determine here is we need to figure out when we're looking at it. Is this a treasure, is there a rumor about the natural resource itself? Or are these just two things that overlap with something? It's like, oh, underneath this farmer's field, there are ruins of an old treasury vault or something like that. Or some ancient king's tomb is under the farmer's field. Like, that's how simple it can be. Or under this plantation. It's very much sort of like if there was a keep, then underneath the keep there's actually an old dwarven ruin. It's got something in it, like a Mines of Moria kind of aspect. We could do something like that. And the treasure rumor is like, oh, well, the rumor is that there is like a complex loaded that's supposed to have wild riches from a dwarven age gone past. Very classic D&D adventure kind of stuff. So you might have to go there, you might have to talk to people there, you might have to convince them to gain their confidence so they actually let you in and actually start talking to you about this potential wealth that's underneath their home. So you're in their confidence. They may or may not know about it already. Maybe they hire you, the adventurers, to go in and search for it. Maybe they kind of brush the adventurers off because they already have people who are in there and going it. Maybe they find somebody in the village who's like, hey, my son went on this expedition and he hasn't come back. And I've tried to ask the Lord about it a couple of times, and he won't see me or talk to me. He won't take my audience. And so I'm just scared and I need help. And right, that's many different ways to get into essentially the same adventure, which is go check out the dwarven complex under this guy's plantation or whatever it is. So that's just one way that we can do it. Are we going to do that here? Probably not. There's probably going to be something else. So, but I do need to know, are these things related or not? So let's roll for the natural resource first, and maybe that'll tell us. Because if it's super mundane, that's probably not the case. All right, so we're gonna do this range. We're just gonna roll a d6, see like how common. Oh, all right, so it's a super exotic thing. So it's super exotic. Let's do like a d4. 2. Some sort of exotic flora. Okay, maybe some sort of like ice flower, maybe some sort of thing. Exotic flora. I like it. So yeah, obviously that will be the thing that ties us in. So there is this treasure room or something like that. We're right next to this Highlands area. Maybe it has something to do with this Highlands area that we're abutting. Highlands, sort of hills things. Generally makes me think giants because of hill giants, etc. But it could be any sort of creatures. Could be an old dragon horde. Could be who knows what. But some sort of exotic flora. Maybe some sort of ice dryads. That'd be cool. All right, and So we know that it's going to be some sort of exotic thing. And then we need to roll our d4, like, is there anybody here cultivating it? That's no. So it's a pristine or undiscovered. So it's literally going to be rumors of an undiscovered. And we could make this could be like a panacea kind of thing. Panacea, it could be a plant of immortality. Let's say yeah, like plant benefit. What if they were literal sunflowers? Like they're flowers that give off light and heat. So it's super. They're super useful. Like if you're able to get one transplanted into maybe um, like a greenhouse or something in the Arctic, that you're able to basically have yourself artificial grow lamps. I like that idea, so I'm gonna run with it. So undiscovered sunflowers. So flowers give off literal light and heat. Uh, they can act as essentially grow lamps for greenhouses or hothouses. Yeah. So there's this rumor that there is a place, and maybe you can see it. Maybe sometimes they say it's like, oh, well, on the darkest night of the year or whatever, because we're down at the South Pole. You go in there and and they're like, well, on the winter solstice, the longest night of the year, you can actually see a golden glow on the horizon. They say that that's where the sunflowers are, and that's when they're at their brightest, is when the night is darkest. And so, there you go. There's your adventure. Go find the things and bring them back. This community is maybe, they're like, look, we lost the sun, or maybe like we don't have enough food, so we're not going to make it through the winter unless we're able to grow more food in the deepest of winter. But there's not enough sunlight to really grow things in our hothouse. And be like, but there is this legend, these mythic sunflowers that exist that give off light and heat, and if we could get one and transplant it back here, that would maybe help save us and make sure that everybody gets fed. Like Plants vs Zombies. I don't think I played enough Plants vs Zombies to get to that point, but yes, I assume that there is that is left out. It's cool. It makes sense that there's something that already kind of exists like that. No ideas are original, right? But yeah, no. This is one of the things where it's just like, oh, we go until we get until our brain kind of does something, put some pieces together, and we go, oh, now here's a cool thing that's here. Yeah, so rumors of we're gonna say, yeah, these are undiscovered. So yeah, there's no, because sometimes you might have a plantation or it might be a gathering spot. Whereas if we roll differently, we'd be like, oh well, once a year, because maybe the plants aren't they're annuals, they're not perennials, so they don't regrow. So the sunflowers die and then they're dead. They don't come back in the next growing season. So they're like, oh well, every year or whatever, there's like this pilgrimage that we make to go to this area to go get the things, and it becomes a gathering spot. Just like, so we go there to gather what we need to come back and bring it back. Oh, the sunflowers are the basic resource for all the places. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I guess I don't remember too much. It's been a long time since I played that game. But that's okay. Yeah, it's the basic resource for all plants to grow. Interesting. Cool. All right. So I said we were going to do one more. I know we're going a little bit longer than usual for one of these streams, so we're just going to do this last one. Maybe I won't talk so much. I am out of coffee again, pretty much, but that's all right. I'm not going to stop to refill it. We'll see how well my voice lasts. Projecting into the mic. All right, so let's roll in for these Highlands. Okay, we're going to get something right off the bat. Excellent. 5, which is going to be a crossing. All right. So Probably don't really need to do a lot of work here. It's probably just going to be like a mountain pass, a hill pass. Sometimes you gotta stick with the classics. And we roll immediately another one. Number 10. What is 10? Oh, natural resource site. Alright, 3. Go. 2. Is this gonna be a 1? No. It'd be funny if it was 3, 2, 1. Likelihood of that happening is pretty low, though. Alright, and then number 8. And we're gonna get a 9. Omen, info, or warning sign. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Boop. Up, 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 up. There we go. Haha! We've done it. And we're gonna have quite a few POIs this time, I guess. Oh, finally. Finally we get something that's really gonna be chewy. So, number 2 is that there is some sort of holding, is the way that I describe it. Is that number 2 is a holding. So, by that we mean that it's a holding or a fortification of the settlement. So this is like where some sort of noble generally lives. It means that there's some sort of manor house or keep or castle that's here. So now we know that that's here. We'll keep plugging away. Moving on. Got a few more to go. All right. And number 7, we're going to have another 5. Okay, so another crossing. That's good. Sometimes it seems, when I was first starting out trying to get these lists going and stuff like that, it was really difficult when I had multiple crossings within the same hex. It's like, that's a lot of crossings, especially if there's not like a major river that's kind of going through that area. And what are we up to? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Boop. Down here. But this is, man, what a perfect spot for it. Perfect. But now sometimes when I have crossings like this, I'm like, oh, well, I'll just make them both a pass. So this is going to be like the ends of the trail of the paths that go to each other. So you travel from this one to that one. So it's a really easy way to pick things up. You know what? I didn't finish this out. I just remember I didn't finish out this guide station. That's okay. We're going to come back and I'll do that real quick. Because I didn't do the manned and unmanned and told or untold. Trying to figure out if you got to pay money and stuff for it. It's a guide, so we kind of think you got to hire them, but not always. All right. Well, it's going to have to be manned because it's a guide station. Yeah, I guess we don't really. I'll just do that now. Well, obviously this is going to be manned and told. So we don't need to worry too much about it. Because you got to pay a guide. Guides got to eat. They got to make a living. All right. Oh, natural 20. Man, we've had a lot this time. I had another hex earlier when I had just started this that has like 3 hazards in it as well. All right, so we got 1, 2. Boop. All right, we'll keep moving forward. Here we go. Oh, whoop. Well, 1 too many. 5. And the 17. What's 17? Oh, wandering monster. More wandering monsters. 2, 3. A 5. There we go. And there's only 5 left, and we have 5 dice, so let's roll them. Alright, there's going to be one final one. And it is 6. What is 6? Creature Lair. So that guy goes right here, down at the bottom. So this is the dragon head. So a creature lair generally means that it's a monster lair or things something like that. So this is going to be like a big sort of villainous kind of creature who lords over this area. So the likelihood that this BBAG kind of villain monster is in conflict with this person who has a castle probably pretty high. There's probably going to be something that's happening there that could be related to this warning sign. We don't know. But let's we've been going top down. Let's do it backwards. We're going to do it backwards this time. We're going to start with the villain's layer. All right. So this is a good one where we roll our d6 to 12. We got a 6. Okay, that means it's something weird. It's weird. Oh, some sort of fae. Interesting. So we have our APL 11 through 16. This is going to be some sort of fae layer. Now, the question is we'll do it this way. I'll roll a d6. Is there going to be sort of a village? So sometimes I put, like, is there a settlement attached to this? Like, is this a monster that is in control and or dominating, enslaving people, or just rules over people, even if they're not necessarily evil? I don't necessarily know that. Generally, these are what I make big bad monster guys who are evil dudes. Or evil dudettes, or whatever nomenclature you want to use. But not always. They don't necessarily have to be. It just tends to be. Okay, well, I rolled a 6, so there's no village here. I was doing the same thing that's like rolling for point adventures. If I roll a 1, there's going to be a village there. There's not. Okay, so we need a fae. We're going to fae. Faes again, not a ton of high-level faes. Right, in the books, they kind of cap out Eladrin at 10. Which means that the Eladrin are, for some reason, more powerful than, like, hags, which seems weird to me. But let's roll just a 3 and a 10. How about that? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so 2. It's the 9th entry on the second page. Darklings. Okay. I always struggle to remember what's the difference between Darklings and Quicklings and Red Caps. You have a lot of small fake creatures that kind of blend together. But there is a Darkling Elder. I think Darklings generally mess with hags, so it might be a hag, or it could just be a Darkling Den. So we're just going to put down Darklings. Layer. So again, we're going to probably have to change it and make them like super icy in some way. That's generally what we're going to need to do. So we're going to have like, we'll call them like Rime Darklings. That's cool. That's better than Ice Darkling. Give them kind of a thematic name. So we know that we're going to have something, we'll add some cold stuff to them as well. So they're more of a like I'm trying to remember what the dark guy's name is in the Rankin Bass one. There's Heat Miser, and I can't remember what the ice guy's name is. Red Caps love dipping their caps in blood. Yep, sure do. That's how they get those caps staying so red and delicious. Tastes like pennies. So yeah, we have our Rime Darklings layer. So yeah, there's not really much else that we need to put here for that, if I recall correctly. I'll show this. Because I don't think monster and villain layer. I could determine what kind it is. A lot of this just kind of goes into my own stuff for like building stuff and building out some of the dungeon. So I'm trying to incorporate this. This is a little bit more of an in-depth document, so I don't have to then pull up a different document and start looking at it. But I can do what kind of dungeon it is. So we can do that real quick. Okay, I'm gonna roll a second one. So that's a prisoner revolt, a vault. So another layer is going to be a vault. So something of a vault in prison. So there are 3. Let's take a step back. So there are 3 kind of archetypal dungeon types if you're going to make a dungeon. There is the complex where people live and work. There is the natural area. So it's like, oh, it's a cave system, etc. Inside a giant whale's, space whale's belly, wherever you want to make it. It is a natural formation that the creatures are occupying. And whereas a complex is sort of artificially constructed, like something they made. And then the third one is a prisoner vault. It is something where you secure some sort of person or object or item, and a vault protects the thing inside from the outside world, and a prison is just that, but in reverse, it protects things on the outside from whatever you have contained here. So we know that it's a vault, so there is some dangerous thing that's in here. I think that's all we need to know. Yeah. So they've got something that's in there. That might be something that they are trying to. They might not. The Darklings might not necessarily have been the people who made the layer. This could be a thing where, like a cult that's summoning a god or whatever, these Darklings are trying to maybe unlock the thing that has been imprisoned here, or that is in the vault. They want to get the thing that's in the vault out. They're intruders as well. So if your party goes in there, now there's two sets of intruders. There's the party and the Darklings that are in there that are trying to get something. So that can make it a little race against time, if you want to, which can, adding some time pressure helps a lot. So once they discover it and be like, oh, well, if you don't do it quick enough, then the Darklings are going to get their hands on it, and then they'll be unstoppable! And they'll just be stopped in a slightly different adventure. So, and it's okay to have your party like lose the adventure in that circumstance to be like, oh, you guys didn't quite make it, so you lost it, but now you know what's going on, so now there's a new adventure in which you're trying to stop them or find a way to stop them. Now that they have unlocked whatever creature or powerful item or what it is, that's what I was looking for. I was gonna say in vault. I don't think I put it in here yet. What's the thing that's in the vault? Is it a creature? Is it an item? No, what's been? Is it some sort of knowledge here? I have a different document I pulled from, so I don't know what that is. That's just it, and then I'll put just down here. No settlement, just so I don't think I forgot about it. All right, so that's the first one. Second one, wandering monster, super easy. What kind of wandering monster are we dealing with? 4 beasts, 18. What's at the end of 18 for beasts? Hup, 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 hup. For natural creatures. 18 plants. Plants. Another toughie. Everything in the natural world is a toughie. Which sucks that there's so many. It comes up so often because the wilds are so pervasive. Let's go to plants. What kind of plants we got down here? So we don't have a ton. We don't got a ton. We've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Okay, so we'll just roll. How about this? We'll roll maybe 2d20, and I'll pick whichever plant I like better. Two and 4. So a corpse flower or a woodwoad. Corpse flower is pretty simple. But the corpse flower, if I remember correctly, is kind of a one and done thing. So maybe the woodwoad makes a little bit more sense. And we could also do spore servants. That would be fun too. Lycanids are always fun. We can do woodwoods. Why not? Because corpse flower, one of the problems with plants, again, is that most of them are not, or a large number of them. I shouldn't say most, because actually most are ambulatory. But there are some that just like don't move. Like flowers don't really move. An awakened tree doesn't move. It's a tree. So to make them a little bit, especially when it's like it's a wandering monster. Well, trees don't wander very often. Now, if you want to go the tree route, sure, maybe it's a forest that moves, which would be a really cool one. We could just do that. Should we just do ice forest? Like the roaming forest? That's kind of cool. I like this idea that maybe it's treants. How many treants can I throw in together? Well, I guess probably not as many treants. Yeah. So I can't put them too high because I can't put that many treants in the fight. So I can't make it just like the treants would be the only thing. So maybe I mean we could cheat and say awakened trees as well. So that adds a lot of things. So if we want to do what do woodwoods look like? These guys look like these. Who I remember them. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, they just kind of look like big tree kind of guys. They're like baby ants in a lot of ways. They're kind of like baby ants. Yeah, I like that. So maybe we'll do like this awakened tree. It's a forest that moves. So it's the roaming forest. This is sort of roaming ice forest. So it's probably like a lot of like evergreen kind of trees, and they're probably dwarf trees because of the area that we're in. So that's very funny to just. So they're not like giant towering trees. They're probably only like maybe only like 15 feet tall. Like they're not super tall because they're even though that's certainly not a dwarf tree, but I also don't want them to only be like people size. But maybe we could make them people size. That would be funny. I don't know. Maybe it'll be a mix. Maybe there's going to be some small, mediums, and larges, and then we have the woodwoods that are kind of part of them that kind of protect us, like the protectors of the roaming forest. I like that. Darklings are cursed to die from old age if they absorb life. Maybe cute to hear the curse of an item of darkness. Oh yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, no, that works a lot. Yeah, because Darklings are cursed fey creature, kind of. So yeah, Darklings have like an item of darkness, something that maybe like blots out the sun, something that allows them to cast like darkness or shade or something like that. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, and definitely like when I'm sitting down to actually flesh it out, because I don't really need to do it at this point, but if I wanted to sit down and really firm up, I could either make it the item that was already important to the campaign, and that's what they're going after, and then come up with a reason why they're going after it, or do something like that where it's like, oh, maybe this is and I was thinking like a totem of the sunless sky or something, and maybe it like creates sort of like a dome, a dark dome that like over an area, and just kind of protects, like knocks out all light. So gives them the ability to on especially in those sort of like polar days where you have days of sunlight strung together when it gets into sort of like that area and there's not really a ton of shadow that maybe they want something like this so they can still like move around and do things so they don't have to essentially like hibernate for a couple of days or while the sun blares for 24 hours plus. So yeah, but let's go with the roaming forest. I like this idea, so we're gonna do that. Cross forest, and so this is gonna be sort of like, and I'll just put like woodwoods, awakened trees. Even though I said awakened trees typically don't move, that doesn't mean that I can't make them move as a dungeon master. I can just be like, yeah, these guys have walk speed. It's fine. Etc. Alright. And so what they doing though? Why they here? What are they looking for? What do these monsters need? What are these guys doing? These wandering monsters D4 don't necessarily need this. I think maybe they just kind of seasonally move, but let's look just in case. See if I like what I get. They're foraging. Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm just gonna put in here like, all right, migratory or pastoral. You put it that way. Pastoral / migratory. So it's like, do they just kind of move with the seasons anyways, and they're just always searching for places where there is soil that's maybe not fully frosted over, maybe there's places they can duck in these valleys and these sort of highlands that they can go down into, get lots of light and get lots of protection from the cold wind, be able to access some soil and some actually liquid water, things like that. Yeah, I like that. That works for me. And since it's my world, that's what's important. All right, back to hazards. All right, what kind of hazard are we dealing with? I'm not gonna show myself. No, no, this was the one I wanted. We know that's number 20. So what's our sort of origin here? 5 and 13, which is gonna be We know that that's going to be weird. Oh, it's going to be another Fae. So it's going to be Fae in origin. So some sort of Fae hazard. And what is it? I believe it's D6 roll. It's really good. 4. For hazard. I rolled a 4. No, environmental training. I felt like we just did that, so I'm going to cheat and roll again. I feel like I've gotten a lot of those recently. I rolled the other one that we've gotten, which is a trap. There are 6 entries. Let's maybe try one of the ones that we haven't used a whole bunch. 5. Flora. That makes sense for the Fae, ideally. So this is the thing that we could throw something like corpse flowers in, because corpse flowers are kind of... Corpse flowers are kind of more like traps. That's probably run into a lot of like the plant kind of things. They're in a lot of ways they're more like traps than they are creatures necessarily. They have the stench of death. They have these corpses that they do where they munch a crunch and they regain hit points on, and then animates dead. Yeah, so that stuff kind of works for us. If we wanted to do but the flora itself is not a huge hazard. Do we want to do something that's maybe a little bit more spell oriented? Yeah, let's try that. Let's do something from spells. I'm looking for. Let's try something spells. Something off the druids list sound good. Druids and or ranger. Let's do that. So we are druids or rangers. Druid or ranger list. That, and what level of spell should we use? Well, that's gonna be really easy to look up. Let's go. Let's just look at the druids. So we can look at the druids spell list. This is 5e.tools, by the way, in case you want to know what website I'm looking at. So we know between the levels of 11 and 16, we're looking at 6th, 7th, or 8th level. So I'm just gonna roll a d6. We're gonna pyramid weight it. 3. All right. So let's look for a appropriately leveled 6th level spell. So that already gives us quite a bit, so we can really knock this down. Here we go. Bones of the Earth, Sky Pillars, Conjure Fae, Druid Growth. You invoke the spirits of nature to protect an area outdoors or underground. Following effects. While in the area, solid fog, grasping undergrowth. Entangle. I mean, that's a good one. We could make like entangle as a spell. That does work. Could do that. It does seem kind of anticlimactic for adventurers engaging with it, but like this is the sort of thing that like would jump up and grab like animals and make it to where like an animal would never be able to get out of the area. Spike growth, yeah. Constant gust of wind, wind wall. But it does help to be like plants. The trees have the same as awakened trees for grove guardians. That does put us, so it does make sense that we are in this area. It does feel thematic. Looking at the map, that now we have multiple kind of things that are going on here. So we've got the sunflowers that could be very druid related. We've got these roaming frost forest. We've got this this Fae hazard. Oh, it's a Fae hazard. It's not a plant hazard. My bad. But let's go with that. So investitures, move Earth. Because we do want it to be some sort of hazard. That's flora related, but Fae flora. So it could be Conjure Flame, but I don't really like that. Ooh, a Flesh to Stone one would be really cool. That's a really good high level one. Because once you're hitting like party levels 11 through 16, petrification is the thing you can get back from. For the duration. What's the Oh, the duration's only a minute on this. But that doesn't mean that we can't make it longer. We can make it an hour. We can make it a day. We can make it permanent. That'd probably be really tough. Because unless there's only a few different ways to get around petrification. Oh, it has to be ended by Greater Restoration or similar magic. So Greater Restoration is a high-level spell. It's a level 5 spell, so if they have a cleric in the party, they're going to have access to it. They might not have it prepped, though. So having it last for... actually, can clerics swap on short rest? I don't think they can swap spells on short rest. That's just a wizard thing. So if we make the petrification for a day... Now, the problem is like, if it's the cleric that gets petrified, that's an issue. But there should be... That then becomes its own little, like, adventure, maybe side adventure where they, like, find things. So we need to be able to give them some sort of way. Maybe this is something if somebody has, like, an alchemist proficiencies or something like that, where they can, like, take samplings from the plants and come up with basically make an antigen, like some sort of cure out of the plant to fix the petrification process. So we have ways that we can, as a dungeon master, be like, okay, well, we can't just likelihood that we're going to full petrify the party is low. So yeah. How do we want that to do it? Usually petrification, right? We think of Medusa, Gorgons, we think of like sight based, but it could be sound based, or maybe. I think the easiest thing to do is to make it touch based. If we make it with the grasping vines that kind of come out, and it is touch based, that would work. I like that, so let's do that. Don't need to think about it too long. That is very. Well, they are super capricious, and they already do a lot of sound-based things. Hey, you know what? I can stick with it. So we're gonna say like Fae. And let's say Clover. And I like Clover. Clover feels very Fae adjacent, so we're gonna say Feywild Clover. Grasping. Vines that instill petrification. I'm gonna say stone spell. Sometimes it's helpful with these hazards to just grab a spell that exists and kind of use that as base. So flesh stone. So it took a little bit longer than I wanted to, but hey, it's fine. We'll roll the d4. I think I know. Sorry, this should be a d6. 5. For this could be for a crossing. The crossing is 5, so let's go up to 5. Oh no, what's the d4? My mistake. I was right the first time. 4, a guide. Yeah, we could go. Now, we're going through this highland area, so it would be really dope to have just a tunnel passage. We got the Mines of Moria kind of situation. Hey, if you're on this side of the highlands area and you want to get to this other side of the highlands area, then there's this old tunnel that runs through it. It might be dangerous as hell, but you can do it that way. But if you don't want to get lost or you don't want to be exposed to the cold air in the Arctic highlands, that sounds reasonable to me. So yeah, I'm just gonna go with that and be like, oh, it's a tunnel. And we'll say that this is the southwest tunnel exit. So usually these are dwarven in nature, because dwarves make tunnels. It doesn't necessarily have to be. We could always be like, oh, it could be like an old purple worm tunnel that's been burrowed through the earth. And they've just co-opted it. So do we have, here's the thing, do we have any guides here? Probably not. Nope, I gotta roll a 1. So it's not manned, which means that it's not going to be told. And so this idea is it's just literally going to run straight to this other one. That's how this is going to work. No sense in making double work. It'll be a cool thing. People can get lost in there. There can be all sorts of weird monsters in there. Maybe it dips into the Underdark. So we get a 2-for-1 there. We're going to make this the north. Unlex it. And I guess it could really out. Wait, I'm not really. I don't need to worry too much about space, so I'll go ahead and just say southwest unlocks it. Unmanned, untold. Do we want to? We could use Origin if we wanted to maybe try to get an idea of like what kind of creatures might be in there. And if we have 2 at separate points, then we can kind of be, yeah, let's do that. Why not? Let's see what kind of do. Ooh, 616. All right, so Fiend on one end, and on the other end, also Fiend. Okay, great. So I'm just gonna put down here Fiendish encounters. Or yeah, we'll just put Fiendish influence. Do we want to? Yeah, we'll just take it. Yeah, I'll just leave it as Fiendish influence. I guess that doesn't actually need to be hyphenated. Go ahead. There we go. Fiendish influence. Perfect. We've done it. Done it. So are there statues? Oh, for the plants? Yeah, there's absolutely going to be like all sort of like crumbled statues. I think that there's going to be like a we're gonna have like some caribou. There's probably like a frozen polar bear and stuff like that in there. There's gonna be the average sort of like adventurer. Some of the other people, maybe there's a giant that's hanging out there that's got like some legs broken off from them or something like that. Does the plant crush the statues for mineral fertilizer? Good idea. Yeah, I like it. Could absolutely be doing that. Maybe they petrify them and suck the life force out of them that way. They do that plant thing where they can like bust through concrete, and they actually just burrow into the creatures and slurp out the insides, and then you're left with sort of almost like a petrified forest kind of aspect, where it's just like this stone husk, and there's actually nothing. It's hollow on the inside. And then once players come across these in the world, and their player characters are investigating them, and be like, oh, you find these statues of creatures, and they've got holes in them, and you look on the inside, and there's nothing inside. These seem to be like hollow stone casts things. And then you can let them make some nature checks. Maybe this is kind of Fey influence, so maybe some Arcana checks. Try to figure out if they know anything about this. If not, maybe they get a little warning, other than the warning of statues, so they're already on edge about petrification. But most petrification, like I said, comes from gaze attacks. So they're going to be on the lookout for things like basilisks and things like that. Basilisks and Medusa kind of creatures. And they're not necessarily going to be worried about things that are grasping them and are petrifying them that way by restraining them, which is like the first step on the petrification track is to be restrained, which makes sense that there's a big vine that kind of comes up and wraps around you and holds you down. So you do that, and it holds on to you, and so you're restrained, and then the next failed save, you get petrified. But yeah, no, I like that. They're using it as a food source. I didn't say that out loud. That was kind of my assumption going into it, is that they're probably using these people as a food source. But they could also just grind them up. But I like that to be maybe a little bit more dangerous than that. Sorry, we're going this way. All right, now we've got one of these bad boys. We know there's going to be a village here. Who's in this village? 625. Oh, oops. APL 11 through 16. What did I say? Population 625, right? I believe. If not, it'll just be wrong. And we've got. Boop, boop. All right, holding or fortification. Let's roll a d6. We roll with advantage. 2 to 5. Okay. Sometimes I roll with advantage on some of these higher level hexes, so there's more castles and there's less just like random manor houses. So keep inner Bailey, outer Bailey, moat pitch. You don't. This is not actually all that important, but if you were ever going to actually infiltrate the place, you'd need to know how large the place is. So this is a relatively large place. The only thing it doesn't have is like a formal gatehouse. But it means that it has 2 curtain walls in it. And I guess this is just a ditch. Not Can't really do a moat when you can't have a lot of liquid water. So it kind of has to be. I mean, it could be an ice boat, which is funny that you can slide across and stuff. Yeah. Well, we'll say ice boat. Hey, who's kind of in this area? So we can get down here into region. We can roll these if we would like. We'll see what we get. We'll see if I agree with that. I can always come back and change it. So it doesn't really matter that much. But it's nice to just kind of give myself a view. Okay, so this is a Marquis or a Marcher Lord. So Marcher Lord, so this is somebody who's in charge of the march. Makes sense. It's very much a march. And kind of in the middle of nowhere. So who's this person serve? We don't know. So they might just be a lord in their own right. And maybe the term like Margrave or Marquis kind of comes from maybe they were attached to an older area or empire. Because I don't think there are any. I'd have to go pull up my political affiliation maps, but I don't think there's any sort of like large country, large nation that has any claim to this land. I think this is very much within the wilds. So they just might be out here chilling by themselves. And we'll do an influence. Just now, this doesn't mean that this is the creature that's holding it. It just means that there's an influence of that. So we got something weird again. What do we get on the weird table? It's weird. It's weird. I rolled a 15, right? Or a 12. I'm pretty sure it was Fey, though. So I'm just going to write down here Fey influence. So it doesn't mean that there is a Fey in charge here, though we've got a lot of cool stuff that would make sense for like a Fey Dryad kind of thing that's kind of in this area that kind of makes sense. And we've got a lot of plant and a lot of plant and Fey influence in this area, so it could be a Fey Lord. Maybe this is a Winter Eladrin holding or something like that. I've got some Winter Eladrin and a few hexes westward. So, but they are some creatures, one of the few creatures that are like, hey, we are in the Arctic sometime. So there's that. And that's all we need to know about this place for right now. It's just something that gives us an idea into what's going on. I guess we do. Well, I'm not gonna worry about the sublets and stuff like that. There's a lot more stuff that kind of goes into this, and that's in different documents. But I don't need that sort of level of detail right now. I know what it is. I know kind of the size of it. I know sort of the rank or power of the person who's there, and I know that there's an influence here. So maybe like a Fey March Lord, which would be very interesting. A Fey Marquis or Marquess. Margrave, Margris? I don't know how the feminine of that works. Not particularly important, like I said. Alright. We've got an info alarm, etc. I think this is the first one we've had of these, right? I feel like these come up pretty often. I had some, these guys over here. So I'm thinking about it. Is it this one? No, that's the... Nope, that is incorrect. This is the one I'm thinking of. There are a bunch of like frozen staked corpses that are hanging out in those hills over there. So there's like these hills that are staked with the corpses along them. I assume so. Like when the sun's behind them, like they cast shadows and stuff. It'll be kind of eerie. Why are they there? What is it about? Once I have players that are in that area, depending on what's kind of going on, I'll make up some sort of reason for how that's included with something, or actually start to think about the reasoning of why they're there and why it's important and why maybe people haven't taken them down. Or the elements haven't taken them down if they're being protected from the elements. But for now, we're dealing with this one. So let's roll a d8. What do we got? What do we got? 2. So, some sort of dam, fountain, spring house, or well. Okay, so something water related. Interesting, interesting. Hmm. Now, we know that there are tunnels under the area already, in this sort of highland area, so a well could be a cool one. A well would actually be super useful in this area, or as would a spring house. Well, a spring house. Because you might have to go down real, real deep to get uh, actual liquid water. So again, a well isn't as necessary. None of these are as necessary when you have so much snow. Is that you can, as long as you have the ability to make fire, you have the ability to make water from snow and ice. So it's not as important. So maybe it's a dam. I mean, this is a big sort of highland area. It's likely that there's like a glacial valley. Like you can't say fjord because it's not a sea fjord, not on the sea. But fjord, like in that it's a very narrow, deep cleft V valley that's carved out by glaciers, like a fjord is. Um, hmm. We always make it warm water, which would make it a nice spring. It could just be a hot spring. We could just make it a hot springs. Though that does technically maybe fall a little bit more into the next one, which is natural resource site. So, well, I'm not getting any good ideas, so I'm just gonna roll again. And a gibbet, a hanging tree, or an oubliette. Now, there's something I want to do with that well, though. I mean, I could make a megalith. Megalith would be super cool here. Or the stats. It's like the. I don't remember off the top of my head. Orthostat is the. Yeah. So could do something like this to have the orthostat. If I wanted to do something cool like that, which we don't have a lot of that stuff down here, so it could be cool to add something like that in. I don't know. I'm really tied to the well for some reason. But it needs to be an omen, provide some sort of information or warning about something's going. The well could be tied to the tunnels underground, which would be. Which could be in itself a communicate warning. Yeah, maybe it's a boarded up well. Yeah, it has like a warning sign on it. I like that a lot better. So yeah, let's go with there it is. And did I copy and paste? Probably not. Nope, I sure didn't. APL 11 through 16. Boarded up well with warning. Uh, connects to let's say monster filled, or let's say danger filled. So that way we're not leading ourselves too far ahead. So we just know those things. So danger filled tunnels beneath the highlands. So yeah, maybe there's this massive complex of tunnels down there, and that kind of works. Maybe not necessarily with the dwarves, who probably didn't make like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles of network of underground. They might have, not necessarily. Now, the other people who could be making underground stuff would be the Genasi, and they make more sense for this area of the world. And they do weird stuff, because they are a bit chaotic, at least in this world. So that would make sense, and that would make sense to, because if they're frightened about chaos and stuff like that, to beneath the highlands. But we don't necessarily know that it's one massive network. It might be, and like I said, it could be like a purple worm or something lives in this area, and it's just carved these tunnels throughout this entire area as it's moved around a whole bunch. And there's probably a layer down there somewhere. come across. Now, could be what the Darklings are trying to get into way down here. So if we keep things a little amorphous, we don't need to firm it up until we firm it up. Once it's actually important to do that, we can leave it this way, and things will go pretty straightforward and pretty well. So that's what I think I'm going to do. So these are boarded up well with warning. So we know they can connect to danger-filled tunnels beneath the highlands. That's all we need to know. That's all we need to know. So that's the warning. It tells us, here be adventure, here be dragons. If you want to do that, here's how you do that. And we can jump right into our natural resource. So we didn't do an origin for that last one because we don't know. We don't know what the danger's going to be. And I kind of want to keep it vague so it can be whatever I need it to be if I'm running in this area. So our natural resource, we need a D6. Oh, it's a rare luxury. So it's a rare resource, and let's roll a D4. 4, undiscovered. Or pristine. We'll just say pristine. We don't know if people don't know about it or not. But it is pristine. Well, what kind of resource do we think we're going with? 3. Fauna, so some sort of animal. We do that. So it's something rare. Animal that's rare. The nice thing is that now that we're in the hills, we can use things that fall into the native environment of the hills. Isn't there hills in here? No, they changed that. I forgot. It's just mountains now, right? Aquatic Arctic cave. Caves will work as well. To things that are in the caves, sure, we can do things that are in the Arctic. Why not? Dungeon, we could add that, but we'll save it. Forest, grassland, so I guess we kind of have to go mountains. So dragons, they want to give me trolls. We could have the Rimmeraz, which we haven't done yet. Common thing. Spirit trolls. Yetis, we've got some Yetis that I've used in previous hexes. Some giants. What kind of makes sense? What do we think makes sense for this natural resource? It's thrown me a lot of people, is the thing. And not necessarily people that I want. It needs to be some sort of flora fauna, so I really want to be sure. Let's switch the CRs. Let's go down for something that's sort of in the lower CR range. Maybe that'll make more sense for us. Let's go not. Can we say not humanoid? Let's do that. Fungus, the fungus among us. Maybe actually it may be quicker if I do it this way. Lost dragons. Yeti. We can always go for Yeti pelts. Or something weird like Hydra blood. Right. Isn't Hydra blood acidic? I can't remember. Mythologically I think it is, but I don't know. I just look back here. I don't need to go anywhere. Multiple heads, dies all its heads are dead at the end of each of its turn. It has at least one living head. Hydra grows 2 heads for each of its heads that dies in the last turn. Reactive heads. I believe that the Hydra, at least in the Greek myth, I think has acid blood. And it also has the teeth that make undead. The undead warriors, at least in Jason and the Argonauts. From those tales. So, yeah, I think we could use Hydra. That's fine. How many Hydra can we put in here? I think probably quite a few. Yeah, we can put quite a few in here. which makes sense. I don't think this should be a particularly difficult thing for them to take down. So we can, a few Hydra. Yeah. And maybe we can do something with these scales. Maybe if you get a cloak or something like that, like getting a troll skin cloak or something. If you get a Hydra enough Hydra scale to make a like cloak with it, or maybe a belt out of it would be pretty cool. That gives you some mild regeneration, like you regenerate your character level and hit points back at the start of each new turn. So I mean, like at low levels, that's only one, and it only kind of scales up. So it's never going to be super big. Um, but maybe it's like an active thing, like you have to activate it as like a bonus action, and it only works like. It's just, I feel like it's a thing that should happen pretty often. So maybe like once per rest, you kind of make a magic item out of it, or you get the teeth that allow you to like cast the teeth and summon some undead warriors. You can do all sorts of like cool stuff. Give your players some cool magic items that are not super unbalanced. Like those free hit points are okay. They're great. They're not great. They're okay. And it could be temp hit points. We could make them temp hit points if we feel like they're going to abuse it too much. Be like, oh, you just gain 10 hit points at the start of your turn. Equal to that. That works pretty well. Pristine rare resource. So we have a pristine. It's not necessarily a lair. Pristine Hydra Grove, I guess. Clutch? I guess clutch. And I'll just leave a little note for myself down here. All we need to know about this. Did I do the build? I did the build for this, right? Oh, okay. Right. Yes. So we do have the pristine Hydra Clutch hunting. It'd be like a teeth, and it's like. Actually, I don't have to say Hydra teeth. I can just say teeth. And this just kind of gives us some ideas of what they could hunt here. Coming undead. And if you get like the scales, or I'll say flesh, like 10 HP. Maybe I'll do that. Regen, flesh, 10 HP, items. We'll say that like craft. What's something else? And blood. It'd be like the. Maybe it'll be like universal solvent. Which is not so. We have sovereign glue and universal solvent. These are magic items. They're consumable magic items that actually don't come up too often in 5e. They used to be a lot more useful, especially in ye olde days when the game was a little bit more about like, oh, there's this weird thing that I have to figure out how to get past, and a lot of the challenges are sort of exploration challenges. But that is a lot of how I like to run games too. Is to be like, I'm going to present some sort of obstacle, and like, you guys figure out how to get past it. And so universal solvent is something that basically, like an acid or a base, it just kind of eats through anything, and it is pretty much the one thing that works against sovereign glue, which is like ye old fantasy super glue, gorilla glue, that just you take two things, you put the glue on them, and you stick them together. Those things are stuck together unless you roll like a ridiculously high strength check. I think it might be a 30 strength check to break it apart, or you have to use the universal solvent to basically dissolve the glue. So if we add that instead of acid to be like, oh, it can be used, or maybe it can be used to craft. Maybe all of these are like little crafty things. The teeth generally you can just toss, but maybe craft some of them dead. That really just kind of leans into the mythical aspect of the Hydra, which I like. And we have this guy. Now, one thing I didn't do is these are crossings, and they should. I think I rolled for this one. I have not rolled for this one though. Or did I? I did not. Uh, so yeah, I think that they're both of these have villages attached to them. 825. And then we'll do it once more for our other one. 700. And that's it. That is this hex. And I'm going to go ahead, before I forget, we're going to save this. Thank you. But yeah, I think that's everything that we're going to do today. Went a little bit longer than usual. Actually, quite a bit longer. I didn't realize what time it was. That last hex, we had more stuff in it than I thought we were going to. So, I don't want to burden the point too much. Thanks for hanging out with me. Hopefully this was useful or at least entertaining for you to see a little bit about how I do some hex mapping and stalking those hexes. You can try it out. Like I said, it's not, if you're trying to figure out how to DM, a new DM or game master, you're trying to figure out how to run session, and you're more focused on like, how do I run the game and what am I doing next session? Making hex maps like this, not going to be super helpful for you. Do not follow that as an example. This is more of a thing. It's like when you get to the point where you're like, I want to build a long-term world that I want to start running like all my games in, or most of my games in. And you want to do that world building aspect, that's when I start jumping in and doing this sort of stuff. Like I'm running a campaign right now that's set within this world, not in this area, but in this world. And so it has its own pantheons and religions and nation states that are going on, and its own sort of like ancestral quirks and relationships between the different ancestries. And there are mercenary guilds in it, and uh, all sorts of weird monsters in different places. And uh, it has kind of a historical bent to it, just because I like that kind of stuff. So it feels a little bit more with like feudalism and how religion is a very potent part of the world. So understanding how the church works, and this is one of the things that came up in our last session where they were talking about uh, reasons they were trying to make sure they didn't. At least one person in the party was not getting arrested, and they were in a temple, and did some rolls. They have a cleric with them, and I had the cleric do a roll, and they were able to sort of lane this like, hey, you could. One of the things you could do is you could have your person demand sanctuary. So if they demand sanctuary, the like constabulary, like the policing force, legally can't arrest you, and you are bound to that holy ground. Now you step outside of that temple, they can grab you. As long as you're within the temple and on the temple grounds, they can't do anything to you. So you can. I was like, that's a very short-term solution. It's not a long-term solution, but it is a short-term solution for you. And then they were dealing with that because they have mercenaries that are enforcing the law in almost a Flaming Fist kind of capacity. So their knowledge, unlike the Flaming Fist, they're not the resident policing force. So it's like these mercenaries kind of know the law, kind of don't. So you're not sure if it will fully work, or you have to really be persuasive when you convince them. But yeah, that's sort of the D&D game from yesterday. And they were able to get out of it. But I was able to world build that aspect, and so I like that aspect of the world building. But that's only something you could do. You build on that and iterate on that, in my case, over years to understand that stuff about your world and build that stuff up. But that's not stuff that you need to run your game tomorrow. So, if you're a new Dungeon Master or Game Master, not as helpful for you, but hopefully it gives you an idea of maybe how I sort of percolate some ideas and how you can use random tables to help you go, instead of staring at a blank page and wasting a bunch of time, you use some random roll tables to kind of get your brain in motion and give you some ideas, and then you can iterate and build off of those ideas and mutate them and change them until maybe you get like a spark of inspiration. You're like, oh, this seems like a cool thing, and then you immediately start doing that cool thing. Like you're never beholden to the rolls either. But that's everything for this time. Thanks for hanging out with me, guys. We'll hit this back next time. Hopefully, I'll be a little bit less busy this next week, and I'll have an opportunity to like plan something for us to actually talk about. Otherwise, I guess we'll do more of this. But I think people enjoy when I have an actual topic to talk about, or maybe we'll split up and do some different stuff. I don't know. This week, me will figure that out. We'll try to figure it out for next time. But thanks for hanging out with me, guys, and I'll see you guys next time. All right. Bye bye.